launching almost 200 ballistic missiles towards Israel over the course of yesterday and into the evening. This is seen as a retaliation for the assassination of the Iranian-backed Hezbollah group's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. And remember, the political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, was also assassinated in Tehran at the end of July. And the missiles being fired happened on the same day that Israel had begun its deployment of ground forces into southern Lebanon in its conflict with Hezbollah. So already there was an escalating and intensifying conflict, and now enter into the mix these missiles being fired by Iran into Israel, including targeted towards cities such as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Well, we have entered truly perilous times, folks, I would say, and one can't shake off this distinct sense of foreboding and just, wondering what this is all building up to, all these wars and skirmishes in various parts of the world. Only time will tell what it's all building up to. But in terms of what we have lined up for you over the next 3 hours, the Department of Employment and Labour says it will continue to raid employers across all sectors in the country since it began intensifying raids in September. At a media briefing yesterday, the Employment and Labour Minister, Nomakosazana Math, saying that the department had conducted 2,681 inspections across the country last month. So the department is due to speak to me within this hour, in fact, towards the end of this hour. The Chief Justice, Mandisa Maya, has told the Umkhonto weSizwe Party's lawyers that the Judicial Service Commission, JSC, has decided that it will continue with conducting interviews without the participation of the MKP's member, the designated member of that commission, that is Dr. John Hlophe, and those interviews are scheduled for next week. So just after 7 a.m., I'm in conversation with the MKP as Ntlamulo Ndlela, who will be gauging what the party's next step will be now that the JSC and the Chief Justice has communicated the intention to proceed without Dr. John Hlophe. It's a contentious matter between the JSC and Umkhonto weSizwe Party and other political parties, of course, that participate in the JSC. So that's coming up just after 7 a.m. and we will give you analysis on it as well. We also have all of your regulars, of course, and N. Musa with your news updates every half hour. We'll have Rob Byrne updating you with the traffic situation every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan will be watching your sport throughout the morning. Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update, always fascinating, just before 8 a.m. And of course, we are taking your calls throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief. And the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. And we have your WhatsApp voice notes. We'll take those and play them out and engage with them on the number 061 410 4107. The Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only 481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only 481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Friday nights in Gqeberha will never be the same. Bafana Bafana are taking on the Congo at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium on the 11th of October 2024 at 7 p.m. Come early, dressed to support Bafana Bafana. Sit in our Guijo stand for a chance to win prizes. Gates open at 4 p.m. and tickets start from 60 Rand for adults and 140 for a family ticket. 2 adults and 2 children with special rates available at 30 Rand for children under 12. Scholars in uniform and students with student cards at all Ticket Pro outlets. If you can't make it to Gqeberha, catch the game live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 at 7 p.m. or visit sabcsport.com. For more details, visit safa.net and Bafana Bafana on X and TikTok.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
And for that, let's turn to Anne Musa now. Anne, good morning.
Good morning, Thulas.
I imagine that the situation playing out between Iran and Israel will dominate the agenda. But what else do you have on the diary?
Well, truly so. We know that the cross-border attacks between Israeli forces and Hezbollah militants, have been increasing. That in the context of the Gaza war conflict, and it's about to enter a second year. So, looking at the escalation of the Middle East tensions and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warning of grave consequences after Iran launched the ballistic missiles at targets across Israel. The Iranian Foreign Ministry yesterday also calling on the UN Security Council just to take meaningful action. That's to prevent threats against regional peace and security. That's so important. However, we also have some good news. Relief for motorists, the fuel prices decreasing, paying prices that we probably last saw in 2022. So the price of the 95-octane petrol dropping by about 1 rand 6 cents a litre, and 93 going down by 1 rand 14 cents per litre. We monitor developments at Lusikisiki after 18 people were gunned down, and the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, visited the affected families yesterday, and, he said that the investigation on the scene has now been completed by the experts, and police only need to follow the leads. And we know that a person of interest has been taken in for questioning. The police commissioner, Fani Masimula, again, appealing to the community there to assist police with information. We're also looking at details that's on the public protectors slamming the Department of Correctional Services, and that being for delays in investigating the 2022 prison escape of the convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester from the Mangaung Correctional Centre in Bloemfontein. In Pietermaritzburg, the magistrates court there, the trial of an IEC official charged with transporting voting materials in the general elections that took place on the 29th of May without a police escort is expected to get underway, and the trial was delayed by 2 applications. The court expected to hand down its ruling on those 2 applications today. And also, global mobility experts are gathering at Gallagher Convention. That's for the Smarter Mobility Africa Summit opening today. And it's taking place during the launch of Gauteng's leg of the October Transport Month campaign. The Premier Panyaza Lesufi and MEC expected to deliver the welcome and opening address. And experts at the summit will be looking at ways to improve the growing need to improve how people and goods are moved around, from public transport as well as urban logistics. So we know that with rapid urban population growth, congestion, and many people lacking access to safe, reliable, and affordable transport or mobility. So with all of that said, we know also, Thulas, that over the past few months, many concerns raised over the state of scholar transport in the country. Yeah. And earlier this year, about 11 learners and their driver died when the scholar transport they were traveling in was involved in a collision, and this just highlighting the poor state of vehicles, reckless driving by operators that are ferrying the learners, as well as sometimes driving under the influence of substance abuse. So today, the Greater Johannesburg Learner Transport Organization will be holding a prayer session to remember and also mourn the learners and drivers who lost their lives, but also they will be advocating for compliance and road safety. So some of, the stories that we will be focusing on throughout the day and morning.
Yeah, a packed diary I hear from what you're saying, and I must say I'm particularly particularly intrigued by the trial that you flagged out of the Magistrates Court in Pietermaritzburg about the transportation of voting materials without a police escort. We tend to move on after the elections, so it's interesting to see that there's follow-through on that issue.
True, very, very true. And, you know, in one of the applications, the accused, who was the IEC manager, actually argued that the MK party supporters, you know, should be barred from wearing their party regalia in court, you know, saying that it was intimidating. So, yeah.
Never a dull day in our courts. That's Ann Musa. She has all of your updates in the news every half hour here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let's give you your weather then and get you ready for the day ahead. Let's start with warnings. There's only one warning for a change. It seems we are slowly getting out of the difficult situation with the weather. We have a fire danger warning. It says that extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the Richtersveld municipality of the Northern Cape. That's it. We've gone from 6 warnings to just 1. The rest of your weather then. The weather in Pretoria is fine with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 28. Johannesburg fine, 6 to 22. Mbombela partly cloudy with drizzle in the evening with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 21. Polokwane partly cloudy, 10 to 20. Mahikeng is fine with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 24. Bloemfontein fine, 1 to 22. Kimberley is fine with a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 24. Cape Town is fine. The wind is light to moderate south to southeasterly, becoming fresh to strong from the afternoon. It's a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 22. Gqeberha is partly cloudy with the wind being moderate easterly, becoming fresh to strong with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 20. East London is partly cloudy. The wind is moderate southeasterly, turning to northeasterly by the afternoon with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 19. Durban is partly cloudy with isolated evening showers and rain. The wind in Durban is moderate southerly to southeasterly. It's a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 19. Pietermaritzburg will see morning fog, otherwise it's partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain. It's a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 17 in Pietermaritzburg.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
Friday nights in Gqeberha will never be the same. Bafana Bafana are taking on the Congo at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium on the 11th of October 2024 at 7 p.m. Come early, dressed to support Bafana Bafana. Sit in our Guijo stand for a chance to win prizes. Gates open at 4 p.m. and tickets start from 60 Rand for adults and 140 for a family ticket. 2 adults and 2 children with special rates available at 30 Rand for children under 12. Scholars in uniform and students with student cards at all Ticket Pro outlets. If you can't make it to Gqeberha, catch the game live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 at 7 p.m. or visit sabcsport.com. For more details, visit safa.net and Bafana Bafana on X and TikTok.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So let's take you to the Indo-Pacific for that. And Japan's newly elected Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has said he will call snap elections for October the 27th after winning the leadership of the governing party. Ishiba was confirmed as the country's Prime Minister by members of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party yesterday. The 67-year-old replaces outgoing leader Fumio Kishida. For more on this, I'm joined now by Professor David Munyai, who is the Director for the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Prof. Munyai, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. So let's start with you perhaps contextualizing for us the transition from Fumio Kishida to Shigeru Ishiba. It seems to me that for the longest time we were talking about Shinzo Abe being the president, the prime minister of Japan, but it seems we are back to transitions happening ever so frequently.
Oh, indeed. And Japan seemed to be facing more or less similar challenges. Deflection, flat growth, and the party itself also is plugged in massive corruption. And therefore, I think the new leader first task is perhaps to deal with internal party politics and dealing decisively on issues of corruption. But I think the cabinet that he has lined up, it shows well-balanced, more experienced people, more in security issues, and he's calling for a NATO-like Asia NATO for the region to deal with what Japan perceives as a threat, North Korea, as well as an asserting China. Home front, it's the economy. I think that's what his leadership will be preoccupied with. And he's talking in terms of revitalization of the rural areas. Himself is coming from a rural area. So it appears that he'll do new things, but it's just more or less the same, reforms, and reforms.
Yeah, and you flag the issue of his call for a NATO-like organization for Asia. And that's gotten the region talking, hasn't it? All the way from Beijing to Seoul, because, as you say, and Pyongyang as well, as you say that he's calling for this regional organization that would be like a NATO. This is in the context of China as well as North Korea as well.
Oh, indeed. I think those are the core issues, as well as a continued relationship with the United States, where he brings a new kind of talk. On one hand, he wants to strengthen the relationship with the United States, but on the other, there are some fears in other quarters that he might want to revisit some of the core issues, particularly on some of the islands controlled by the United States, where he sees that more of occupation instead of cooperation. And he also wants Japanese troops to be stationed on American soil in terms of this cooperation. A win-win, a kind of a cooperation instead of second class, as the case since 1945, that United States gives this guarantee, security umbrella to Japan. He wants a much more renegotiated in terms of dealing with the constitution at home, a post-45 constitution, as well as equality that is demanding in terms of relationship with traditional partners. But one does not think that he might achieve some of these core issues given the global environment with what's happening in the Middle East and domestic issues that will occupy most of his time.
Yeah, I don't imagine that China is too pleased with the fact that he actually visited Taiwan recently and met with the leadership in Taiwan.
Well, not at all. I think that has already been made quite clear by China. But beyond that, in terms of the elections, the party elections, he is much of a better hand compared to some of the hardcore right-wing leaders that could have taken that position. So there might be room for negotiation. He appears to be very pragmatic, and therefore I do not think he'll go all out in terms of antagonizing China, given the fact that even though there are huge differences, and with China, there is a need of cooperation, particularly in the economic sphere.
Yeah. Just back domestically now in terms of what he'll be dealing with within Japan itself, he does have a problem. As you say, he wants to revitalize the rural areas, and that's a particular theme in Japan and its development of late. But another problem he has is just the composition of the population, the aging population, as he talks about Japanese troops on some of the U.S. territories in the Pacific, I imagine, is what he's talking about. But there's also that issue of just the defensive posture of Japan juxtaposed with an aging population.
Oh, indeed. I think the question of an aging population, it's one of the biggest challenge of Japan. And therefore, I think on education, he wants to deal with issues of empowering women more. And I think he will go to an extent of ensuring that there are reforms in education and ensure that the society prioritize more workforce and issues of equality. He is, as much as Japan is very conservative, I think he supports same-sex, and I think he's speaking a typical liberal language that might be welcomed in so many quarters in the world. And I think we're going to see more new issues that is going to tackle, particularly in the question of environment. Japan is also battered by endless typhoons as we speak, and therefore I think he's responding to these issues, as well as at a global level, issues of high-tech competition with China. So I think we are going to see a leader who is going to balance things with much more focus on security as well as domestic economic revival.
Prof, if you don't mind, can I take you on a intellectual detour, a separate matter altogether? You will have observed the missiles being fired by Iran towards Israel on the same day. It started on the same day as Israel launched ground forces into Lebanon. Just your sense and your take of the escalation that we are seeing in that region.
I think this is there's a need of a global sober mind. I mean, global leaders, and it appears that United States, the outgoing President Biden, has no focus, has no ability to deal with the situation in the Middle East, facing domestic, elections at home. In the Middle East, the strategy by Israel, decapitation in terms of killing all your opponents, left with no one to negotiate with, it appears that you're going to see endless escalation issues. And I do not think it doesn't matter how strong the Israeli Defense Force is with assistance from United States to deal with the Houthis, to deal with the rebels in Syria, to deal with Lebanon, to deal with Iran. Something will give in at some point. You cannot use force to a level that you deal away with issues of negotiations and finding a peaceful solution. But what's happening on the ground, accidental wars might escalate involving other parties. And that's exactly what we're seeing taking place at the moment.
All right. I'm always grateful for your insights here on the show. That's Professor David Munyai, who is the director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Brings us to 6:31. Let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, there's more reprieve for motorists as the Energy Department cuts fuel prices with effect from midnight last night. The price of 95-octane petrol has dropped by R1.06, while that of 93-octane is down by R1.14 per litre. Police say they have strong leads in the investigation of the gunning down of 18 people in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and the National Police Commissioner Fani Masimula confirmed one person has been taken in for questioning following the incident which happened last Saturday morning. And the Israeli military says it's carrying out airstrikes in Beirut against targets of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just putting that fuel price into perspective, I read yesterday 93 octane inland is as cheap as it's been since February 2022. You have to go that far back to find the last time that grade of petrol was that cheap. Roads this morning, the Mike 1 from Boyson's now busy coming up through towards Smith Street. Very slow getting through the Crown Interchange, and a major backlog coming out of Pretoria on your way through to Midrand and Joburg. That is a stationary truck blocking a lane between Jean Avenue and the N1 Brockfontein Interchange. All of that traffic leaving Pretoria on the N14, having to squeeze into a single lane to get past it. It is quite a heavy backlog. Durban, the Richmond Road out of Marion Hill, there's an unusual queue. That's quite heavy this morning. She'll line up passing RTI on your way towards the N3 highway. And Cape Town, Mitchell's Plain will be receiving some of our sort of focus, because not only the roadworks on AZ Berman for My City bus lanes, which have been there forever, but at the same time there's a big sort of upgrade job going on the M7, Jake Scoville, between Highlands Drive and Danafontein Road. So you'll have your two big sort of in and out routes being worked on at the same time, and both are pretty busy going out of Mitchell's Plain this time of morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey, good morning to you, Zai. I see that the focus is on rugby and the URC done and dusted, and now teams like the Sharks and the Stormers are set for a big lift.
Thulas, the URC is spicing up with some serious rugby talent. I think the Sharks are also getting a mini army back. The likes of Siya Kolisi and Ibn Etsabat set to make a bite out of the competition. Then there's the Stormers. They'll be storming in with Damien Willemse and Mani Libok leading the charge, looking to turn their luck around after last week's stumble. And don't forget the Bulls. They're charging. I mean, they've got Kurtley Arendse, Willie Leroux back in the mix. It's like turbo boosters to these teams, and I think fans are just going to have to buckle up. It is going to be an absolute wild ride, and this is because the Springboks, their next international fixture is only in November. So look out for stars like Siya Kolisi, Ibn Etzebeth, Makazole Mapimpi, Damien Willemse, Mani Libok, Kanan Moody, Kurtley Arendse. It is going to be a fantastic United Rugby Championship tournament. Now, the Premier Soccer League has announced they will elect a new executive committee at their upcoming general meeting in mid-November. It's been 4 years since the likes of Dr. Ivan Khoza, Kaiser Motaung, Mato Madlala and John Kamitis were voted into their roles. Now, with the new elections around the corner, all eyes will be on this influential group and how their decisions will shape the future of South African football. Now, a key point on the agenda is the audited financial statements of the league, and there's also expected to be robust discussions around the qualifications for coaches in the professional ranks. This issue has been a hot topic, with growing pressure to ensure that top-tier football maintains high standards on and off the pitch. Moving to Europe, the Champions League last night saw VB Stuttgart held to a 1-1 draw by Czech champion Sparta Prague. In another Champions League fixture, Arsenal secured their first win of the season with a 2-0 victory over Paris Saint-Germain. Kai Havertz opened the scoring with a perfectly timed header. Bukayo Saka added a second before halftime. The Gunners are unbeaten in 9 games this season as they push for Champions League glory and a shot at the English Premier League title. Now, cricket action. England's women's team showing impressive form ahead of the T20 World Cup. They comfortably beat New Zealand by 5 wickets in their final warm-up game, restricting the Kiwis to 127 for 4 before chasing down the target with ease. Closer to home, Ayabonga Kaka was the standout performer for the Proteas women, taking an incredible 5 wickets for 25 runs in their warm-up match against India. Despite Kaka's efforts, the Proteas just couldn't chase down India's 144, falling 28 runs short. Now, South Africa look ahead to their T20 World Cup opener against the West Indies, and that's starting this Friday around midday. And tennis, Carlos Alcaraz is through to the China Open final after an impressive straight sets victory over Daniel Medvedev. The world number 3 is now on an 8-match winning streak following his US Open exit, and he'll face Yannick Sinner in the final. Alcaraz is chasing his third title of the season, and all eyes will be on him as he looks to cap a successful 2024 campaign. And finally, golf. South African golfer George Coetzee is making his return to competitive golf after a wrist surgery. He'll be competing in the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship in Scotland this week. Now, Coetzee is a 5-time DP World Tour champion. He's been out of action for 16 months following a torn ligament, and this tournament marks a major step in his comeback, where he'll be playing across 3 prestigious links courses: Carnoustie, Kings Barnes, and the Old Course at St. Andrews. And that wraps up your Morning Brief Sports. Stay tuned for more at the top of the hour. For SAFM, I'm Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, let's bring in Dowling Lechala for that. And Dowling, this was perhaps way before your time, and I'm revealing my age here. We used to say there are some things that money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. I see that MasterCard is snapping up subscription management company Minna Technologies. How does that help them to ensure that for everything else, there's MasterCard?
That's right, Silas. Now, in M&A activity, MasterCard has confirmed that it's acquiring Minna Technologies for an undisclosed amount. Now, Minna is a software startup that makes it easier for consumers to manage their subscriptions. So this move comes as MasterCard joins its rival Visa in aggressively pursuing growth beyond traditional credit and debit card services, venturing into cybersecurity, fraud prevention, and pay-by-bank payments. Now, company said that the deal, along with other initiatives it's committed to around subscriptions, will allow to give consumers a better way to access all their subscriptions in a single view, whether inside your banking app or a central hub. MasterCard said that it noted that consumers can sometimes lose track of subscriptions. And I think when they mean consumers, they mean me. and so this initiative can help or rather, when consumers lose track of their subscriptions, this can have a negative impact on merchants, because consumers who aren't able to easily cancel their subscriptions end up calling their banks to request a block on payments being taken. Now, this acquisition is just one of many that MasterCard has made in a way to stay competitive in the industry.
And in other news and company news, Advitech, I think that's how you pronounce it, you'll correct me, the private education provider is planning to open a new university campus. Tell us a bit more about that.
So, Advitech, the education player, it's actually acquired FNB's training and conference center in Sandton. Now, this acquisition marks a major expansion of Advitech's operations in the Gauteng region. The property will be transformed into a university campus, co-locating 2 of Advitech's largest tertiary brands, Varsity College and Vega. Now, the new campus will also increase student capacity, accommodating up to 9,000 students. This is double the current capacity of Varsity College and Vega. The relocation is expected to be completed in time for the 2026 academic year, with Advitech already receiving approval from the Competition Commission. Now, this project will cost Advitech a lot of money. It will be investing over 419 million rand over the next 2 years. The plans include developing more lecture facilities and a new sports center. According to Advitech's CEO, Jeff White, this acquisition aligns with the group's expansion strategy, which includes other projects such as a new Pinnacle College campus set to open next year in January, expanded Rosebank College campuses in Pretoria and Bram, and a relocated Rosebank College in Cape Town, which would double its capacity to 6,000 students.
Yeah, but it's clear that they're not struggling because of the ability to provide a service that's actually needed, the private education sector. Lastly, just a recap on Asian markets, the U.S. markets, as well as how the JSE closed yesterday.
So risk seems to be off the table as markets kick off the new month on a sour note. We've had geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell pour cold water on market expectations of a bigger rate reduction later this year. This weighing on equities as a whole, with all U.S. indicators closing in the red yesterday. The JSE also not really kicking the new quarter on a very upbeat note. The all-share managed to eke out some gains, though, ending yesterday's trading session pretty flat, just above the flat line, up 0.8% higher. Meanwhile, the local unit trading slightly weaker, shrugging off upbeat data from the manufacturing sector. It's sitting at 17.35 to the dollar. Over in Asia, trade pretty mixed following the escalation of those tensions in the Middle East. This also saw oil prices tick up as investors raise concerns about potential disruption in output on the back of the fallout.
All right, Ndauling, we'll talk again in the second hour. That's Ndauling Lichela there with your news from the economic front, covering business and the markets as well for you throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Attention all caregivers of children. Are you and your children's vaccinations up to date? Vaccinations can prevent serious diseases and prevent hospital stays. Protect your little ones by getting them vaccinated. Don't wait until it's too late. Talk to your healthcare provider today about getting your child vaccinated against serious childhood diseases. Because health matters. This message is brought to you by Sanofi and the National Department of Health.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
So the weather's been making news quite a bit in the last few weeks, and the South African Weather Service says despite recent snowfall, South Africans are still in for a hotter than usual summer. The Weather Service held a media briefing yesterday where forecasters said the recent snowfall was not unusual for spring. According to forecasters, historical data has shown that snow events, that's what they are calling them, are most likely to occur between May and October, with up to 5% of these events taking place in October. For more on this, I'm joined on the line by Professor Francois Engelbrecht, who is a climatologist at the University of the Witwatersrand. Good morning to you, Prof. I've got to thank you for your time. So, nothing too dramatic then, it would seem. We saw the snow and many of us were saying it's unprecedented, but it seems you guys, the climatologists, are saying that, you know, it is precedented. It does happen anytime between May and October.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thank you very much for having me. Yes, well, we should, of course, point out immediately that this was a very significant snowfall event. We have up to 80 centimeters of snowfall in places. So we all saw the impacts. They were severe impacts over the Heritage Day long weekend, as we've now all seen very well reported in the media in recent days. But yes, climatologically, we get about 10 to 15% of all the snowfall events we get in South Africa in the month of September. So snow in September is not exceptional, not over the high mountains of the Western Cape, certainly not over the Drakensberg and the Lesotho Drakensberg, quite common in September. It's because we still get the cold fronts that bring our winter rainfall in September. So, you know, these important weather systems that bring so much rainfall to the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape very, very important for the rainfall of those provinces, the cold fronts, they occur typically between April and September. So those are also then the typical months for snowfall. Of course, most of the snow we get in the middle of the winter, in June and July, then a bit less in August, then a bit less in September. By October, it's quite exceptional. But even far to the north, in Johannesburg, we've had snow in October. It doesn't happen often. One of the most significant events, I wonder if there's a listener that know about this, 18 October 1965, snow in Johannesburg. So it just shows you. It can happen all the way into October.
So all bets are off.
Roughly 5% of the events, of the snowfall events, happen in October. So even October is not unheard of for snow.
So given what you've said, and in the context of this particular spring into summer, what would you say should be our consideration? What's your best advice in terms of expectation for colder weather, or should we now start preparing ourselves for warmer weather?
The number one thing to watch now is the La Nina event that is likely to happen in the Pacific Ocean. So already, as we are talking this morning, there are signs of a La Nina developing in the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean. And most climate models predict that by the end of November, there will be a full-blown La Nina event across the eastern and central Pacific Ocean. That's important for us because usually the La Nina brings good falls of rain to southern Africa. And we need the rains right now, of course. We all know about the water crisis building up in the Gauteng province. We will lose the water via the tunnel for 6 months. Vaal Dam is down to 40%. So we need the rains. Further to the north of us, it's actually much worse. There are national states of disaster because of the drought of the previous summer in Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, and Malawi. So we really need a good rainfall season. So the La Nina is usually good news for us. The only reservation, unfortunately, I should mention this morning, is that most predictions currently indicate that this will be a weak La Nina event. And therefore, we can only be cautiously optimistic of good summer rains, especially over eastern South Africa, including over the Megadam region. So there's reason to be cautiously optimistic, but we can't count on this rain. We will have to be very responsible with our water usage in Gauteng.
Sure.
As long as we have these low levels of the dams in the east.
Lastly, Prof, I do want to ask you about the anticipation that we may face a hotter than usual summer. Is that the expectation, and what's that based on?
It is the expectation. Nowadays, almost every summer is warmer than the average summer temperatures of the last 50 years. It's because of climate change and global warming. We are continuing to pump these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So nowadays, even a La Nina summer that usually brings lots of cloud cover is warmer than it's supposed to be. So the climate models are quite clear that it's going to be an above normal warm summer. And heat waves are becoming parts of our lives in southern Africa because of climate change. We've always had heat waves, but nowadays when they occur, they are even more intense. They last longer. This is climate change, and increasingly, of course, periods of reduced rainfall combined with heat waves is going to become an issue for us.
Yeah.
And it's going to become very important that we are able to get cool water and clean water to people in informal housing, for example, during dry spells, because heat stress is becoming a major issue in South Africa because of climate change.
All right, Prof, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. Just quickly, that date you said was 18 October, what year?
1965.
All right, thank you for that, Professor Francois Engelbrecht, who is a climatologist at the University of the Witwatersrand, at Wits University. And I wonder if anyone was alive at that time who's listening to us now and is able to share memories of that snowfall on 18 October 1965. Let's check in with your traffic at this moment.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The unusual queue for motorists coming out of Pretoria this morning on the N14. There's a stationary truck stuck on the Ben Schumann Highway there between Jean Avenue and the N1 Brockfontein, and that's a heavy backlog. Just one lane open to filter all that peak time traffic through. If you are just sort of leaving Pretoria, you might want to think about a reroute off at Eupheus and down Buerta Avenue, straight down to the N1 that way and just bypass the N14. Crown interchange very heavy this morning. Mike 1 and M2 routes into the Crown and up through Braamfontein, by far and away the busiest of the congested highways around Gauteng. The R82, if you come in from the Walkerville area, around sort of just north of Aikenoff, up towards Kibler Park, there's an unusual backlog of traffic on your way through to Southgate and Joburg as well. Durban side, the Komashu Highway coming from Malindela through Duffs Road towards the N2, that's heavier than normal. Some big traffic again going into Pinetown with lights out on St John's Avenue Bridge, and the Richmond Road from central Marion Hill all the way through to the N3. That's quite a big and unusual backlog as well this morning. That's extending right through to the N3 highway, that queue. Cape Town, pretty busy on the highways, no major incidents. The N2 backed up from Robert Sobukwe, the N1 back from Plattercliff Hill to Cuba, get a change. Marine Drive, not too bad if you're quick enough to get through before the big backlog comes this morning. A little bit slow at this stage around the Sunset Beach area, and there is a crash out of Kales River Blackheath area, just holding you up on both routes going into the junction of Stellenbosch Arterial and Noinsfontein roads. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, you're listening to the morning brief here on SAFM, and we are covering quite a number of issues. Of course, we did tell you a bit earlier on about the escalation of the conflict in the Middle East, with Iran now firing, and overnight, in fact, into the evening yesterday, firing quite a number of missiles into Israel, various parts of Israel, including those targeted in towards the area of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, the cities of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. It represents a significant escalation of conflict in that area. It happened on the day when Israel had launched ground troops into Lebanon, in that other conflict that the country is involved with the group Hezbollah in Lebanon. All right, let's see if we can move to this story now. Back home, businesses flouting South Africa's labour laws have been instructed to pay more than 10 million rand to employees they have shortchanged. This is according to the Department of Employment and Labour, which has recently intensified raids on rogue employers. At a media briefing yesterday, the Employment and Labour Minister, Nomakosazana Meth, said the department had conducted 2,681 inspections across the country in September, with many workplaces found to be in breach of the country's labour laws. Meth said that her department will continue to raid employers across all sectors in the country. So that is the one other story that we are watching for you, and we will bring you that story as soon as we can. In fact, they gave a breakdown of the raids and what they were able to cover. Get this, the total inspections, and this is for the period from 17 to 20 September 2024. You'll remember we covered it extensively here on the show when they intensified the raids. What they did then, the inspections in total in all 9 provinces, 2,681, as I said. They found non-compliance of 49% of these inspections that they did, and monies enforced 10 million rand, 357,000 rand. So 10,357 million rand, and arrests that were effected during this whole process, 81. And undocumented foreign nationals employed in all of these raids, they found 1,941. So quite interesting details, and one wonders if this will be followed through and will be maintained in terms of ensuring compliance with the country's laws. So that is one of the stories that we are watching for you this morning.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's move to this story now. The Democratic Alliance talking to me this morning now about their concerns about the Department of Human Settlements in Gauteng, and let me speak to the DA's MPL in Gauteng. That is Alan Fuchs. I'm sorry for that. Mr. Alan Fuchs, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your surname correctly. You are expressing concern about the Department of Human Settlements falling short in its responsibility to provide housing to vulnerable residents in Gauteng, and you're saying they've achieved only 50% of their targets in the first quarter. Good morning to you, and apologies again if I messed up the pronunciation of your surname.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thank you very much for having me. You nearly got the surname wrong, and I think you would have had many of your listeners being a bit upset with you for using foul language, but that's really not a problem. I'm quite used to it. Yes, indeed. So, Thulasizwe, as members of the Human Settlements Portfolio Committee, we get to see short-term, medium-term, and long-term reports regarding performance of the department. So we see quarterly reports, we see annual reports, and also a 5-year term report from the department. Now, when you evaluate the numbers, you will find that if you compare the number of housing units produced by this department versus the backlog, now the backlog is estimated to be around 1.2 million housing units. If you divide those two numbers, you will find that in order to get rid of the backlog would take something like 70 years. Okay? Now that obviously is problematical. And my problem with this department is that they are not being transparent. People out there in desperate need of housing, are waiting for these promised houses to become available, but they're not being told that these will not become available in the short or even the medium term, if ever. And that's really my difficulty. When you say to officials of the department that you're not dealing with this issue as in terms of the backlogs, they shrug their shoulders. And I'm saying if you want to take that approach, that's fine. But then be honest with people, be transparent, and tell them that the wait for housing is going to be a very, very long one.
Yeah. What is your sense of strategy to deal with the backlog? Do you have a discernible strategy that you see from the department?
Indeed. The department is pinning their hopes on creating what they called mega housing projects. So those are very large projects which consist of a minimum of 10,000 housing units. But it's not just housing. I mean, they also talk about building social amenities like, schools and recreation centers and shopping centers in those areas. So it's almost like creating, a new town. The problem with this approach is that there's really not enough budget. So what happens is they only plan and develop when budget becomes available. So it's piecemeal. And the result of that is that these projects will take 15, 20 years to come to fruition. And that is part of the problem. The other problem is that these mega cities that are being planned are on the periphery. They're not, there's no available land, close to economic nodes. So the result is that eventually you'll get these things built after many, many years. But once again, the issue of jobs and economic development becomes an issue. People will be living there, but nowhere in that area will they find a job. So also the other thing is that the actual project management of these projects is a huge problem. The government struggles to do infrastructure. I mean, I think we can all accept that. And because of all these things, I'm afraid that this strategy of mega housing projects is not going to cut it, and is not going to ensure that we deal with the backlog.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time. Completely out of time. Alan Fuchs, who is an MPL member of the provincial legislature representing the Democratic Alliance in Gauteng, bringing us to 1 minute after 7. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, petrol price relief for motorists and Israeli forces carry out attacks across Lebanon. Good morning. There's more reprieve for motorists as the Energy Department cuts fuel prices with effect from midnight last night. The price of 95-octane petrol has dropped by R1.06, while that of 93-octane is down by R1.14 per litre. The price of diesel has reduced by R1.14 and illuminating paraffin is lower by R1.48 per litre. This is the fifth consecutive month of fuel price cuts. The department spokesperson, Robert Make.
Say it's promising because the oil price is actually as low as just about $70 per barrel, 72, 73. And we have seen the rand also going down to just around $17 per barrel. So we haven't seen any major changes since Friday to today. So now it's promising that the following month we may see another drop in the fuel prices. Too early to say. Maybe on the second week, mid-month, we might be able to give you better prediction.
Police say they have strong leads in the investigation of the gunning down of 18 people in Thulasizwe in the Eastern Cape. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and the National Police Commissioner Fani Masimula confirmed one person has been taken in for questioning following the incident which happened last Saturday morning. The two and their provincial counterparts visited the families of the deceased and wounded as well as the crime scene. Masimula has called on the community to assist police with information.
At this stage, we know who we are looking for. We do have one person of interest for questioning. It's not under arrest at this stage for questioning, but we have a direction. We know where we are going to, and we will update the nation as we go along. Investigation is going well, so thank you very much. And we also, of course, as community members, those that might know more, also to assist us.
Bold One South Africa Bosa says a lack of a comprehensive plan for the 7th administration has led to cracks in the Government of National Unity. It cited the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act and National Health Insurance as some of the areas of disagreement. It has given the Government of National Unity a 50% rating after the first 100 days since its formation. The party, which is not part of the Government of National Unity, wants the executive arrangement to succeed and says it's committed to playing the role of a constructive opposition in Parliament. The Bold One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane addressed the media in Rosebank, Johannesburg yesterday.
The lessons we've learned from the National Development Plan is that often the National Development Plan does not quickly become translatable into annual performance plans so that you can hold the government to account. Already, with 6 years to go to 2030, the objectives of the National Development Plan are not going to be attained. What we need to do is actually create something that is tangible, measurable, that will guide the plans of all citizens, both those in the executive, in parliament, and in other sectors of society.
The student wing of the Democratic Alliance, DASU, has secured a landslide victory in the Students' Representative Council elections at the Nelson Mandela University in the Eastern Cape. DASU won 33 of the 43 seats in the elections held over 2 days this week. The EFF Student Command had the majority of seats in last year's election. DA MPL Yusuf Kasim says they look forward to seeing the changes the young leaders will bring.
Under the leadership of President-elect Latita Mbuzwana, DASO dominated 4 out of 5 campuses and secured representation across all 7 faculties. This victory marks a significant rise from last year, where DASO had gathered 22% of the vote.
And finally, the Israeli military says it's carrying out airstrikes in Beirut against targets of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Lebanon's health ministry says Israeli airstrikes killed 55 people across the country yesterday. The BBC's Ola Garin has the details.
Since we've been in Tyre over the last few hours, we've seen very, very empty streets, houses and shops boarded up, a lot of damaged cars, a lot of glass. On our way in, we saw the site of another recent strike. Cars had been flipped over on their sides. trees had been ripped up and there was a massive crater. Those who remain here, and that's not many, know that there could be worse to come. Israeli troops are now on the ground in southern Lebanon, and the war is moving into a new phase.
Recapping the top story, there's more reprieve for motorists as the Energy Department cuts fuel prices with effect from midnight last night. The price of 95-octane petrol dropped by R1.06, while that of 93-octane is down by R1.14 per litre. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for a 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at Outsurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
This crash we're watching in Centurion on the N14, Ben Scuman Highway. It's a vehicle that's gone back into the back of a truck. It seems quite a nasty crash. It's causing a big delay if you're coming out of Pretoria towards Midrand and Centurion, but it's also causing a pretty heavy backlog on the N14 to Pretoria. You've got options there which are accessible either from Fountain Circle side or from the N1, both ways using Botha Avenue or using the R21. They're your options this morning to avoid major delays on the N14, effectively between the N1 and Jean Avenue side. Over in Durban, there's backlog going into Pinetown this morning. St John's Avenue Bridge, the M7. The traffic lights are down. Traffic starting to push back as far as Hans Stetman Highway. There's just been a crash on the M7 at the N2, so that's going to get in your way if you're going to or from the Bluff area this morning. That also a truck crash. And Cape Town's N7 South. We saw this yesterday, seeing it again this morning. Quite a heavy backlog as you're on ramp from Plattercliff Road all the way through towards the Bosmansdam Road exit. Busier than normal on that run through. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, Benny McCarthy, he critiques Eric Ten Hag's coaching style at Manchester United. And in rugby, the Bulls and the Lions strengthen their squads as Springboks rejoined for the URC season. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Wednesday, the 2nd of October. Good morning, South Africa. This is the morning brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Well, coming up in this hour, after the mass shooting in Ngobozana village in Lusigisigi in the Eastern Cape, now comes the truly traumatic reality of these people having had names, families, siblings, and children, and the likes, and it's now sinking in. Families are preparing to bury their loved ones who were mowed down. South Africans mowed down in peacetime South Africa. 18 South Africans mowed down in peacetime South Africa at the hands of criminals. And the authorities visiting them yesterday and vowing that they will be restoring law and order. We'll see what that looks like. In the next few minutes, I'll be in conversation with the Minister of Police, that is Minister Senzo Mchunu, who is on standby to speak to me about that. Another conversation in Sharp Focus is the conversation about the Judicial Service Commission and the Chief Justice, Mandisa Maya, telling the Umkhonto weSizwe party that they will be proceeding with the interviews next week, despite the objections of Thulasizwe Party to the non-inclusion of their designated member of the JSC, that is Dr. John Hlophe, who is an MP. But of course, you will know there was that interdict that says pending the resolution of the big question of whether or not his appointment to the JSC is proper, he should not participate in the interviews that are happening next week. The Thulasizwe Party will speak to me within this hour, but we'll also have analysis for you a bit later on. And we do have all of your regulars in this hour as well, and we will be taking your calls. And the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes. You can send those to 061 410 4107. The second hour of the morning brief starts now.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3. The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchmen in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up. S3.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So the police minister is vowing to enforce the rule of law and ensure order across the country. Senzo Mchunu, the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola, and the Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane visited families of the victims of the mass shooting in Ngobozana village in Lusigisigi in the Eastern Cape. Mchunu has acknowledged that there is an element of a breakdown of trust between police and communities, but has vowed to restore this trust through the work of the SAPS. The police minister joins me now for that conversation. Good morning, Minister. I've got to thank you for your time. Let's start with an update on the investigation. Yesterday, you and the police commissioner were talking about a person of interest that was being questioned, not arrested yet. Any developments from that point to where we are this morning?
Well, we said this yesterday, and the work is continuing. I since yesterday, at that time, I haven't been in contact with the police. We'll check progress today, later.
All right, but the status was that there was a person of interest who was being questioned at the time.
Yes, and the meaning thereof is not that police were walking around and they met somebody and they decided to sit down with the person. They had started investigations without any person of interest whatsoever. And this person emerged out of their investigations on the ground, and hence the questioning.
Right. Minister, let me put this proposition to you. This whole incident in Lusigisigi represents a failure on your government's part to deal with one of any government's core functions, ensuring the safety and security of its citizens. And I mean that By that I mean it's not to say crime doesn't happen where government performs its function well. It's to say that it's easier for incidents such as these to happen in South Africa because the conditions have been allowed to flourish where guns are freely available, gangs can get in and carry out a mass shooting, outrage lasts a few days, and we all move on.
Not exactly, Makucho. The reason why I'm saying not exactly must be understood on the basis of this specific one. As an example, I went to the two homes where people were murdered. The first one, 4, and the other one. And then the two houses in the second home. One house stands alone, 7 people murdered there. The other house next to this one is also there, where the rest of the people, or the remainder of the people, were murdered on one yard. Now, if you look at it from the first house, you take a walk to the other house, quite a walk. You could even take a car, but you can take a walk.
Mm.
And the homesteads there are together. I mean, it's like in a township, quite together, quite a lot of them. Now, this is a rural area, usually calm and cool and so on. Now, the context is there are people gathering for a function, not any other, but a function to mourn someone or belong to the family who died last year.
Mm.
So there wouldn't be any suspicion whatsoever. There was no report of any kind. There was no obvious feud in the family at that particular moment that police were aware of. But on the other hand, there may have been something simmering within, very much within the family, not within the village, not within the neighbors, but simmering almost within the family.
So in this particular instance, Minister, I suppose the failure is not, I'm not saying the failure is in failing to detect and prior knowledge of the possibility of this incident. The failure I'm talking about is the failure to have a crime prevention strategy that is effective. For instance, Minister, how far from that area in Ngobozana is the nearest police station, and does it have the resources it needs?
It's quite close. I was quite, I wouldn't say I was surprised, as if it's an anomaly to have a police station close to that village. But there's a coincidence here. It's a police station built in 2018. It's one of the modern ones, quite big, and it looks like just offices. It doesn't look like a normal, in the normal sense of the word, especially in a rural area. So the police station is about 5 kilometers, as I calculate.
Coincidence then that it is quite close, Minister. But
it's quite, and it has been reinforced. It has POP, more booths that were put there, that were added. And it has vehicles.
Yeah.
So the only complaint that is there is from the public that look, it shouldn't have taken this long time after the police became aware of the incident for them to arrive there. That's the first thing. The second thing is that there are several cases that or incidents that have happened around the area, but there's no conclusion. But when I spoke to the National Commissioner, he said it's because there are 6 of them, and he says, no, some of them, they are not really close, but it's a question of taking the case to a magistrate, and the magistrate would say, no, because of 1, 2, 3, I'm striking this thing off the roll until you come back. Now, the normal interpretation is that there's no progress. These cases are in. So, but from the public side, they're complaining about it, and I would say from where they sit.
So,
these complaints are legitimate, and we should take them seriously.
So, Minister, I ask these minute details, and it might seem like I'm focusing on a specific incident in that area in Ngobozana village, but it's a microcosm that serves as an example of many other villages. It could be any village, anywhere in any of the 9 provinces facing the issues of policing that you and I are discussing. But I want to ask you this question. Do you, as government, sitting there as the 7th administration, realize that there is a war that is on the go right now in South Africa, a war declared by criminals where the value of life is zero, where shootings such as these happen not only in the Eastern Cape? Yesterday I read out a whole list of the last 2 years. Are you, as a government, in a sense of emergency, that this violent crime in our country is an emergency? And if you are, what is your strategy to deal with it?
Not only are we aware, but we are sensitive to it and we are active on it. When I attended a public meeting in Hanover Park in Cape Town, one of the residents stood up to say, he asked us whether we were aware that some countries in Southern America that are now besieged by crime and sharing power almost with government and well known as mafias and so on, are we aware that it may have started like what was happening in Hanover Park at the time when we went there. Now, look, we're aware, we're sensitive. What are we doing about it? We are fighting crime. And I must add, we're fighting crime, we're fighting criminals with all force that we can. You are aware that we have several, police are all over in a normal way, in police stations and so on. But we have alerted them that, look, almost every street, almost every village, there is some crime of one kind or the other. And we added that we are now putting intervention teams, specialized teams, especially for crimes like drugs, for crimes like stock theft, for crimes now like extortions. Because what is rife are 2 things, in my view, in my assessment. It is drugs that are all over in townships, sold by people who are on feet, supplied by others who are on cars, and the planners high above. And then the other crime is extortions that is easily performed. You may have heard that in Cape Town they even use kumbis to distribute people in a section of the city to say start collecting from here to there. And in the 2 incidents, these incidents were very ugly. It was in the first incident in Milnerton. Several people in the Kumbi died when they started shooting at police instead of succumbing. And we are fighting, and we are using instruments of fighting by police.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That is Minister Senzo Mchunu there speaking to me after the visit to Ngobozana village in Lusigisigi yesterday.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. Insurance are experts in what they do.
They get to understand what type of business are you doing so that they can insure you properly.
It actually validates why we're with them. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, what are you waiting for?
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Mubango returns for an explosive new season on SABC2. A renaissance of new beginnings, intrigue, and drama with old enemies and new characters. Catch the rebirth season of Mubango every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2 or stream it on SABC Plus. Mubango, ukovela panda. SABC2.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
So let's move on to the story now. The Chief Justice Mandisa Maya has told the Umkhonto weSizwe Party's lawyers that the Judicial Service Commission has decided to continue conducting interviews without Dr. John Hlophe next week. Maya says the JSC is bound by the ruling of the full bench of the Western Cape Division of the High Court, which interdicted the impeached former judge president from participating in the interviews. Let's speak now to Nhlamulo Ndlela, who is the Umkhonto weSizwe Party spokesperson. Nhlamulo, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. You've heard now from the Chief Justice and the JSE. They intend to proceed. What are your next steps?
Well, good morning to you. Good morning to your listeners. As at last night, we did mention that we were engaging with our legal team, and they were combing through, the details of the letter and identifying what legal options or legal avenues can be taken. I can now comfortably say that we have taken a decision that we will file papers to interdict the sitting of the 7th.
So what is the basis on which you will be seeking that interdict within the context of, what you need to do to obtain an interdict?
And all that will be articulated in our papers. It's clear. But one of the other issues that we did raise is that, it cannot go ahead because we believe that the person that was nominated in the form of Dr. Hlophe was nominated off the back of a duly democratic process, and that the Western Cape High Court in this case is overreaching and should not have or should be, and should not in any way be interfering in a judicially a constitutionally formed, organization and committee such as the JSE. That's basically what it is. That's Parliament privileges and powers that allow us to do that. And we acted, in this case, Parliament acted within the rules. It was a democratic vote that led to Dr. Hlophe being nominated and representative of Umkhonto weSizwe in that commission.
I take it you are not accepting the reasoning of the court that what this was a discretion that the National Assembly was meant to exercise, and it should have exercised it in a way that is rational at law. I take it you don't accept that. You, if I understand correctly, your position is that the Constitution of this, in your view, a committee that any MP who's been elected is eligible to participate in. Your argument is that it's merely a political process more than it is how it was framed as a administrative action by the National Assembly.
Correct. I mean, remember the National Assembly, Parliament, draws its powers from the Constitution. And the processes that were followed were as per the Constitution and within the rules and the laws allowed by Parliament. So there was nothing that was undemocratic or unconstitutional. Everything was democratic, and we followed processes. Everything followed suit. What we're saying is the case that was brought, that the court presided over, of the back of what is referred to as morality, and I'll say referred to as morality or so-called morality, is baseless. You can't use basis of morality to make a determination as to whether a person should be participating when, in actual fact, they're a person who has been appointed, nominated, and voted in by members of society, and as an MP has got all the privileges and the rights to participate in that committee. You can't stop that. So to bring in now, and what the DA is doing, acting like a spoiled brat, now wanting to try and facilitate a separate platform in the form of the court and abusing court processes to now try and use that to find Dr. Hlophe ineligible to participate because of morality. In of itself, and quite honestly, is immoral. And who are they to speak about morals? When we know very well that they field racists in committees, and they're represented by people who are known to be racists. Look at what happened in the Northwest. So we're saying that even that impeachment, I think this is one important matter that we have to touch on. Everyone says that Dr. Thorpe acted, with gross misconduct. What is meant by that? And what is the basis of that? Because what transpired there was that Dr. Thorpe, all he said to his colleagues was, "Look, this is out of my hands, it's now in your hands," and that's that.
Nhlamulo, thank you. I've got to thank you for your time. I don't have time to get into that debate, and I think it's a settled matter, and I think even from your side, Dr. Thorpe himself insists now on not being called Judge Thorpe, and I suppose enough water has passed under that bridge of the impeachment decision, at least. That's Nhlamulo Ndlela. He speaks on behalf of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, confirming that a decision has been taken that the Umkhonto weSizwe Party will be seeking to interdict the interviews that will be happening next week. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Pietermaritzburg Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal will today deliver judgment in 2 applications in the trial of an Electoral Commission official. Musawenko Simnikat is charged with transporting voting materials in the May 29th general elections without police escort. There's more reprieve for motorists as the Energy Department cuts fuel prices with effect from midnight last night. The price of 95-octane petrol has dropped by R1.06, while that of 93-octane is down by R1.14 per litre. And the United Nations Security Council will convene an emergency session later today on the escalating tensions in the Middle East. This after Iran fired about 200 missiles at Israel last night. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. 2 major problems around Pretoria's highways. One is this crash on the N14 between Jean Avenue and the M1 Brockfontein. That's heavy both ways, leaving Pretoria or heading through towards Pretoria. You've got options to avoid it, like Buerta Avenue or the R21. I'd suggest you get onto those routes. The other one is a major delay from Montana on the N1 South. There's a crash involving school children between Stormful Road and the N4 Emma-Lefleni split. That traffic's super heavy. If you join the highway from Montana every morning, take a reroute to avoid that. Crash on Malabongwe Drive at President Forshire, causing delays to and from Randburg and backlogging the N1 Malabongwe off-ramps. Durban, a crash top of Fields Hill, M13 from Hillcrest coming to Kloof, very heavy. And Cape Town, N7, southbound, saw it yesterday, seeing it again today. Heavy queues between Dunoon and the Bosmansdam Road off-ramp. That's a real problem. Normally it's northbound, the queues. Northbound's moving generally okay. It's the southbound that's the problem today. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai. Is Benny in the 18 area at Chlorkop?
Hint, hint. What do you think? Could we see him back on home soil?
Well, he has served at a high level in as far as coaching is concerned.
Right. I mean, apparently he's in discussions to take over as head coach there. Can you imagine the flair, the experience he'll bring to Chlorkop? And you know what, Thulas, he's a bit like you. When Benny speaks, when Thulas speaks, everyone listens. So, so he's not holding back. He's critiquing Manchester United head coach Erik ten Hag, saying that he's missing that fiery passion that modern football demands. Benny believes players need to feel their coach is in the trenches with them. And let's be honest, he's not wrong. With United sitting in 12th place, I think a bit of Benny fire is exactly what they need right now. But there's plenty of good news, though, for Manchester United. Captain Bruno Mars has avoided a ban after the club successfully appealed his red card from Sunday's loss to Tottenham. Fernandes, who was shown a red card for a tackle on Spurs' James Maddison, will now be available for United's upcoming Premier League matches against Aston Villa, Brentford and West Ham. It's been a rough season for United. With Fernandes back in the mix, coach Erik ten Hag will be hoping to stabilise the team after 3 league defeats. Fernandes' availability is crucial for United as they aim to claw their way back up the table. Meanwhile, in the Champions League, Manchester City star Phil Foden put on a show, scoring and assisting in a 4-0 rout of Slovan Bratislava. City are off to a flying start in their group, and Foden's performance a reminder of the quality that Pep Guardiola's side can bring. Erling Haaland, of course, did what he does best, adding another goal to his tally and creeping up the all-time Champions League scoring charts. Rugby news, the Stormers, they are ramping up for the Vodacom URC season. Their coach, John Dobson, is eyeing a new bomb squad of replacements that could shake up the competition. You can have excitement as well with Springbok stars Salman Murat and Andre Smith are set to return, adding some serious fire to the Stormers' forward pack. Forward coach Rito Shlangwane is confident about the potential of having two sets of locks in the matchday squad, and it has been a strategy that's worked wonders for the Springboks in the World Cup, and the Stormers could soon be unleashing their own bomb squad. On to cricket, Proteas ODI captain Themba Bavuma has admitted that results are the top priority as the Proteas prepare for their ODI series against Ireland starting today in Abu Dhabi. The Proteas have faced criticism for experimenting too much on their UAE tour with some surprise losses to teams like Afghanistan and Ireland. Reza Hendricks, Aidan Markram and Andile Simelane have all returned home, making room for reinforcements like Ryan Rickleton and Rassie van der Dissens. The Proteas are dialing down on experimentation and ramping up their focus on victory. And that's how we wrap up your sports on the morning brief. Stay tuned for more at the top of the hour. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's bring in Daoling Lechela with that update, the second of the morning. Good morning to you, Daoling, once again. So this is good news, is it not? The machines are firing up and factory activity is improving.
Definitely good news coming out of the manufacturing sector, showing that it was fared well in September. The ABSA BER Purchasing Manufacturing Index coming in higher, increasing to 52.8 points in September, putting it back in expansionary territory after having declined to 43.6 points in August. Now, looking at activity on a quarterly basis, the PMI has been volatile in recent months, but September's upbeat performance takes the average PMI for the third quarter to 49.6 points, just below that 50-point mark. This follows average PMIs of 47.9 for the second quarter and 48.2 for the first quarter. The latest survey results also revealed a boost in domestic and export demand, signaling a positive outlook for the sector. Demand is being boosted by an improving local environment on the back of the recent rate cut, constant power supply, and positivity fueled by the GNU. Zooming in on that print, business confidence surged, with that index tracking expected conditions over the next 6 months, reaching 70.8 points in September. This marks a significant increase from August's 61.3 points and represents the highest level since January 2021. The upward trend indicates strong optimism among businesses about improving conditions, signaling a positive outlook for the economy. On the downside, though, the employment index remained in contractionary territory. Manufacturers have been cautious about hiring due to recent volatility in the sector, and to see significant job growth, a consistent upward trend in production is likely necessary.
Yeah, so over and above that employment trend that you just mentioned, the other not so good news is around new vehicle sales, and those continue on a downward trajectory.
Ending the third quarter on a downbeat note, Thulas, sales there declined 4.1% in September. 44,081 cars were sold compared to 45,979 cars sold in September 2023. Despite the continued downturn, though, analysts that compiled the report are optimistic about the future of sales. This comes as Passenger car sales improved for a second month in a row. That category was up 2% year on year to 30,218 cars sold. But the total market was dragged down again by a 17.1% fall in sales of bakkies and minibuses. Now, in terms of the most popular brands being sold in the country last month, coming in first and retaining that top spot is Toyota, followed by VW, and then Suzuki in number 3. And commenting on the data, the CEO of NAMSA, Mike Mabasa, said South Africa's economic indicators for last month showed promise, with the Reserve Bank's first interest rate cut in 4 years, a strengthened rand, and inflation below the SARB's midpoint. Lower fuel prices also boosted consumer confidence, easing household budgets. Mabasa further said that this boost, along with potential further rate cuts, may stimulate economic activity moving forward.
All right, just a recap of how we looked at the close in the U.S., Asian markets, as well as how we closed on the JSE and the rand.
Now, looking at those market indicators, it seems like the oil price is on everyone's radar this morning as the escalation of tensions in the Middle East raised risk of supply disruptions. The oil price edging up 1.7%, nearing the $75 per barrel mark. And while Brent makes gains, equities are trading mixed. In Asia, the Japanese Nikkei taking the biggest knock, down 1.9%. Stocks in mainland China, however, surging. The Shanghai index up 8%, and the Hong Kong Hang Seng surging 6% on the back of positivity on the stimulus package that was released by China. In the U.S., futures in the red, traders being cautious and assessing the fallouts in the Middle East. And then back at home, markets closing flat. The all-share up a tepid 0.08% in yesterday's trading session, while the rand takes a bit of a breather, is now sitting at 17.35 to the dollar.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll catch up with Ndauling Lechela once again after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief. She will be updating you just before the resumption of trade on the JSE.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at Outsurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. You'll also find out about included benefits like panic assistance and help it out 24-hour roadside assistance. Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
Help it out. Took the family up to go and see the snow and I got stuck. The service was quick, even though it was in a very remote area. Absolutely phenomenal service from Outsurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice. Back-to-back champions, the Buccaneers are only interested in lifting up their third consecutive title. Meanwhile, Maroon and Gold, Stellies, want to ensure that black and white fans go to bed early. This is the MTN 8 final. Wafa Wafa. Catch the reigning champs, Orlando Pirates, up against Stellenbosch FC on Saturday, 5 October at 5:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
At the South African breweries, the beers are brewed with 95% local and natural ingredients. From seed to sip, every step of the process supports a thriving agricultural sector and sustains over 250,000 livelihoods. So, next time you enjoy a cold one, remember you are supporting local farmers. South African breweries, brewing more than just beer, brewing a future with more cheers. South Africa, be sharp. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's bring in Sipho Mantula for that. And Raz, let's start in Nigeria. Yesterday, the country turning 64, but it seems it's a season of discontent. Many had dubbed it the National Day of Survival.
No, that is quite true. Let's jump off and refresh money to the listeners. President Bola Tinubu the Jagaban yesterday assured the citizens that yes, they have hardships, they've been having challenges, but they will try by all means to increase investments to deal with economic pressures, but also launched what we call the National Youth Conference, known as the 30-day Confab, where they will look at the implementation of what the youth of Nigeria, their creative energy that he has raised, that they will want to attend to the needs of the youth of West Africa, because that's a challenge that is facing as they were turning 64 years, that this independence, yes, it is their celebration, but there are still hardships and challenges that is facing his country.
And to this story now, out of Rwanda, it's been 30 years since the genocide in Rwanda, and the relationship between that country and France has just never been the same. It seems now that, France is doing its bit to bring to justice those who are accused of having been involved in the genocide in 1994.
No, correctly, Thulasizwe, as you said that, and also France not willing to extradite some of the alleged suspects or accused, like this Dr. Eugene Ramutwa, who has been accused for the genocide. This case dates back from 2007, Thulasizwe, when the family filed those complaints against this doctor who was based in France in 2007. In 2010, he was arrested, and hence this case has been going on. But now it has started yesterday. It will go on until the end of October. So we expect that the family will get justice. As you said, the 30 years of the Rwanda genocide went through a lot. There was an international tribunal by the UN. There was Katata courts. There were many processes when you think of the Rwanda genocide. But what we see from France now, it is prosecuting. It's almost 8 suspects so far. And remember, we are sitting with one who was arrested in Western Cape not so long ago, Thulasizwe, in this country.
Yeah, the wheels of justice do turn quite slowly, and it becomes even more complex when the suspects are spread all across the globe over a long period of time. Let's talk about what's happening in Ivory Coast, in Cote d'Ivoire. And I see Alassane Ouattara doesn't seem to want to go anywhere, just wants to remain in office endlessly.
No, correct, but it seems it is this party too. I think the old man wants to give up, the reign
You think
of
so? I
president.
doubt. I don't know.
But what I pick up, there are 3 cabinet ministers who are not being named in this report, that they have said that there's no other viable candidate besides Alassane Ouattara. And remember this one person who had contested with Laurent Gbagbo where there was a crisis in 2010. Now he wants for the 4th term in 2025, making him another long-standing president in Africa, like your Paul Biya in Cameroon, Denis Nguesso, Congo, Brazzaville. So these are the third termism. When you talk of third termism or fourth termism, and this is a challenge that we see in West Africa, but it seems Ouattara is not willing to last. And he says that the Prime Minister should be the one who could be given that opportunity. Despite that they've lost one in 2020, they will want to have a plan who will succeed Alassane Ouattara.
I see. So he's keen on a succession plan. It's just his party that says you are not going anywhere. In Malawi, Sipho, we had that incident happening in June where the vice president died in a plane crash. It seems now there are calls for that to be probed even more. Another inquest coming from the wife of the late Deputy President Salos Chalima, Mary Ngachamania Chilima, who said that he will want the government to probe further, because there was German experts who came in Malawi and they have said that they did not actually give the cause of the accident. They have said that that plane was not adequately equipped, but they did not explain what led to the crash. And that's where the wife is asking for more inquest investigations, and the government of Malawi, it says they are in touch with the family. All right, lastly, Sipho, your historical archives, you're taking us to 2 October 1995. These were the early days of our democracy. What happened? No, correct. And I think it's a vivid listener of SAFM, Professor Nyameko Bani Pichani, who was elected on this day as a chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission, one of the founding Chapter 9 institution under our 1996 Constitution. As we reflect on 30 years to last, it's important to look at the role of the Chapter 9 institution and their mandate, how they are able to achieve their mandate. As we're talking about the killings in Eastern Cape, what is the right to life in this country, how it has been equated with some gangsterism. And
And that's where the role of the Human Rights Commission is critical. Bani Pichan, when he was appointed to us, he wanted to emphasize on international and continental human rights law for the people to understand that South Africa is part of the African human rights system. Asante sana Thulas, as leading the conversation, SAFM observing the Africa Human Rights Month.
All right, thank you for that, Sipho Mantula, for the Africa update. Always insightful and always fascinating to listen to the flavor of the stories that he brings to light.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy on the N14 in Centurion and the associated routes we've been detailing this morning. The major backlog caused by quite a nasty truck crash between Jean Avenue and the N1 highway. So the N14 coming out of Pretoria with a big volume, very heavy. It's probably even heavier going to Pretoria, so avoid it both ways. Behind that, you've got the N14, the Krugersdorp highway, queuing heavily up towards Brakfontein interchange to try and join the N14. Now, you've got the options of Boerta Avenue, you've got the option of the R21. They'll link you from Pretoria by Fountain Circle down to the N1. So if you need to get to or from the N1 highway, they're your options. If you're coming up from Diepsloot, from Lanseria, Krugersdorp side, you got the option of exiting at the R55 Pretoria West off-ramp and using some alternative routes that way. Just stay away from the N14 both ways and the N14 Krugersdorp highway into that Brakfontein as well. Very heavy backlogs there. Also had quite a nasty crash this morning between Montana and the N4 Emelacheni split in the N1. It looks like that traffic is starting to move through. It was very heavily backed up earlier, but it is starting to ease. That's on the M1 South as you come from Sefako Makato. Quite a big crash on Modderfontein Road at Fararibik, so in from Edenvale towards the N3 highway, and a crash out on Malabongwe at President Forshia, slowing traffic going to and from the N1 highway and backlogging the N1 off-ramps into Malabongwe Drive, and behind that then the N1 coming up from sort of 14th Avenue through Bayers and Ordeer up to Malabongwe is pretty heavily backed up as well. Over in Durban, let's get an update on that M13, a crash right at the top of Fields Hill in the central Kloof area. M13's heavy this morning with a queue back to Hillcrest, maybe Cassia Road down to the N3 and go into Durban that way. The N2 jamming southbound as well as northbound, but southbound this morning, some pressure coming from Umgeni Road down towards Spaghetti Junction. Cape Town, if you're around the Richwood Burgundy Estate area, there's collisions at the same time on Hill Besson at the back of Burgundy Estate and on that Tygerberg Valley Road before Plattercliff Road, so that's all a bit busy. And a crash on the Kuberg Road at Bloberg Road, causing some delays outside of the busy Tableview area. That's out by the refinery side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Dawn breaks across the lush Serengeti plain, but paradise is fleeting as the animals face fresh challenges. Kali the lioness and Bakari the baboon may seem safe in their rock fortresses, but with rivals encroaching on all sides, their future hangs in the balance. Out on the plains, Duma the cheetah faces his destiny, and down by the river, baby hippo Mafuta strikes up an unlikely friendship with the crocodile Magamba. Channel your inner explorer with Serengeti Season 3, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, Noma Upumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Did you know that 80% of South Africa's barley is sold to the beer industry? This locally sourced barley, along with other natural ingredients, plays a vital role in beer production, contributing 2.2 billion rand to the country's agricultural GDP. Join South African breweries on the 3rd of October in Caledon as we dive into the state of the beer economy. SAB, brewing a future full of cheers. South Africa, be sharp. Not for sale to persons under 18.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's return to that story then around the participation or otherwise of Dr. John Hlophe in the JSC. You heard earlier on this show, Ntlamulo Ndlela of the MK Party confirming that they will be seeking to interdict the interviews that are meant to take place next week. Of course, this is after the JSC had indicated, that is the Judicial Service Commission, had indicated that it will continue interviewing participants for judicial appointments next week, despite the drama around the constitution of the interview panel. Let's speak to Mbegazeli Benjamin now, who is a research and advocacy officer at the Judges Matter campaign at the Democratic Governance and Rights Unit. Good morning to you, Mbegazeli. Thank you for your time. So the story has shifted somewhat. So I suppose let me start by asking you that, what do you make of the indication by the MK Party that they will now be seeking to interdict the whole process, all those interviews that are scheduled for next week?
Good morning to us and good morning to the listeners. Well, it will be very, very difficult and almost impossible for them to interdict the JSC at this stage, primarily because what they're trying to interdict is the participation of Dr. Hlophe, or interdicting the interviews from going ahead on the basis of Dr. Hlophe's participation. So one of the important questions that the court will ask is, what will be the inconvenience to an individual versus the inconvenience of an interview process that is supposed to run for 2 weeks, that will involve 55 candidates, 25 commissioners flying from all over the country. And so that, I think, will be the key issue, and which is why I think the courts will unlikely to grant that interdict.
And will it just clarify for us the requirements, if you can remember at this point? Will they need to prove that there's a right that will be at stake if these interviews go ahead?
Yes, so the balance of convenience that I spoke about earlier is one of the requirements. The other requirement is a clear right. And yes, probably Dr. Hlophe can prove that he has a clear right to participate because the Parliament has designated him as a member of the JSC. The only problem is that the courts have already said, the Western Cape High Court has said that he is still a member, he may simply not participate. And so that will also balance against the requirements of the interdict. The other one is, what will it be? Will there be irreparable harm to him if he doesn't participate? And that is something that the Western Cape High Court last week spoke about, to say, at worst, he will only miss 2 meetings of the JSC, but he may still continue as a member if ultimately the court rules in his favor. So even that requirement will not be met. And then the last requirement is whether he will get a substantive remedy if the JSC doesn't proceed. And the obvious answer is that going forward, the courts will still determine his membership of the JSC.
Sure.
And so he will still get an opportunity to participate in the JSC if he wins.
And of course, Mbegazeli, just for completion, that's because what you just said is because what we've heard now is the decision in Part A of that application, and Part B, which has to do with the substantive question of whether or not he should be a member of the JSC. That is what is to be determined in Part B. Just to emphasize that point.
Yes. So what Part A of the Western Cape application dealt with was his participation. Part B will deal with the membership, and that will be the review of Parliament's decision to designate him as a member. And just to close off on this point, Thulas, the requirement, the Western Cape decision was an interim interdict, and ordinarily those are not appealable, and they may not. So the idea is that they don't conclude on a particular issue. And so in this case, the membership of Dr. Hlophe is still valid, and the only thing is the participation, which I think is a factor to consider in any interdict application.
Lastly, Mbegazeli, how much of a test is this whole drama around participation, non-participation of Dr. Hlophe in these interviews upcoming, as well as his membership? How much is it a test for the Chief Justice Mandi Samaya and her style of leadership, particularly of one of the structures that form part of that portfolio, the JSC?
I think this is a huge test. Firstly, I think she's cleared the first hurdle of getting a response to the MK party as quickly as possible. She was able to convene the JSE in the evening of Monday, that is, and they were able to agree, even though there were new members of the JSE who had in the past not been a part of it, but they were able to all agree on the way forward. And now we will see on Monday how things will play out. But I think this will be a very difficult process, but so far she seems to be doing well.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights here on the show. That is Mbegezeli Benjamin, Research and Advocacy Officer of the Judges Matter campaign at the Democratic Governance and Rights Unit. Bringing us to 8 a.m., time to check in with the news now with N. Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, court to deliver judgment in KZN IEC officials case, and UN Security Council to hold an emergency session on escalating Middle East tensions. Good morning. The Pietermaritzburg Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal will today deliver judgment in 2 applications in the trial of an Electoral Commission official. Musawenko Simnikat is charged with transporting voting materials in the May 29th general elections without police escort. The 2 applications have delayed the trial. In one of the applications, the Commission's accused manager argued that the Thulasizwe party supporters should be barred from wearing party regalia in court, saying it was intimidating. The MK party's John Hlope.
I do want to say at this stage, lots of political parties, I've never seen a single political party where the supporters do not go to court or the prescripts of the court wearing their official regalia. So if there is indeed a ruling to that effect, it will be for the first time, and that will be directed. We will take that as an offense, as an affront to the to Umkhonto weSizwe.
The case of a man accused of the murder of celebrity chef Tembikile Litlape is set to resume in the High Court in Johannesburg today. Sibusiso Zita faces multiple charges including murder after Litlape's body was discovered at his residence in Fourways in northern Johannesburg by a father. Zita was arrested in June this year after being on the run for 2 days. There's more reprieve for motorists as the Energy Department cuts fuel prices with effect from midnight. The price of 95-octane petrol has dropped by R1.06, while that of 93-octane is down by R1.14 per litre. The price of diesel has reduced by R1.14 and illuminating paraffin is lower by R1.48 per litre. This is the 5th consecutive month of fuel price cuts, the department spokesperson Robert Maki.
Say it's promising because the oil price is actually as low as just about $70 per barrel, 72, 73. And we have seen the rand also going down to just around $17 per barrel. So we haven't seen any major changes since Friday to today. So now it's promising that the following month we may see another drop in the fuel prices. Too early to say. Maybe on the second week, mid-month, we might be able to give you better prediction.
The Mfuleni local municipality's member of the Mayoral Committee for Finance and Revenue, Hassan Maku, says workers' unpaid salaries are likely to be paid later today or tomorrow morning. This after the unpaid workers embarked on a protest yesterday. The municipality's financial woes deepened after Eskom attached 4 of its bank accounts to recover an estimated 8 billion rand in unpaid electricity supply fees. Maku says the municipality is working on a financial recovery plan.
The Mfuleni local municipality employees have not yet received their salaries, including the administration and all councillors. We had a multidisciplinary ministerial committee meeting from the morning yesterday. The meeting said between Mfuleni and Eskom, and we seem to be having a way forward. we will be finalizing all these matters this morning, and the possibility of releasing salaries will be between today and tomorrow morning. We do have a financial recovery plan that is under review, working with both COGTA and National Treasury. Amongst other things is that we are struggling to collect because of the high unemployment rate.
And finally, the United Nations Security Council will convene an emergency session later today on the escalating tensions in the Middle East. This after Iran fired about 200 missiles at Israel last night. According to Iran's mission to the United Nations, the attack was a legitimate response to terrorist acts. In addition to the war in Gaza, Israel started a ground invasion of Lebanon this week, targeting Hezbollah militants in that country's south. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
Israel's ambassador Danny Danon accused Iran of firing missiles into civilian areas, saying his government would defend its people and that the response would be painful. Iran's UN mission posted on X that should Israel dare to respond or commit further acts of malevolence, a subsequent and crushing response would ensue. The Secretary General condemned the broadening of the Middle East conflict, calling for it to stop while urging an immediate ceasefire. Security Council's latest emergency session comes in the broader context of its ineffectiveness in stemming the tide amid Gaza's large-scale destruction and Israel's ground invasion of Lebanon.
Recapping the top story, the Pietermaritzburg Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal will today deliver judgment in two applications in the trial of an Electoral Commission official, Musawenko Simnikati, who's charged with transporting voting materials in the May 29th general elections without police escort. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187. Here's good news for you and your older car. With Outsurance Essential, a 22-year-old woman pays only 384 rand a month for her 2012 white Kia Picanto 1.2 EX and gets paid cash so she can choose her own panel beater after an accident. Get the cover you need. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 rand. It's time to switch and save. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still well worth avoiding the N14 going in and out of Pretoria. This truck and vehicle crash between Jean Avenue and the M1 highway is severely backlogging traffic both ways on that section of the Ben Schoeman. It's so bad that the N14 Krugersdorp highway queues almost back as far as the R55 Pretoria West exit just to get up and through the Brockfontein interchange. Options would be the R21, Boerta Avenue, going between Fountain Circle and the N1. That'll take you off the N14. And if you're on the Krugersdorp highway, off-ramp at the R55 Pretoria West exit and hit some alternative routes through that region as well. Earlier crash on Malabongwe Drive at President Forshire, causing a major backlog of traffic in that area. Malabongwe, both to and from Randburg, very heavy, and behind that, because Malabongwe so congested, you got very little chance of flowing off the N1 North, so that N1 coming through from Bayers Nordia, super heavy delays as well. Mike 1 fairly slow around Greyston Drive and Caller Drive, both ways being held up this morning to and from Sandton. The M13 from Hillcrest into Kloof stays busy after an earlier crash at the top of Fields Hill. The N2 in Durban from Umgedi Road, unusual queues down towards Spaghetti Junction. That's a crash before you get to 4 level in the roadworks as well. Cape Town N7, really different traffic patterns these days. Southbound queuing heavily. Plattercliff Road to Bosmansdown Road. Northbound out of Goodwood, which normally queues, is actually moving okay. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. The Proteas, they're set to avoid another upset against Ireland in a crucial ODI series. And in tennis action, Coco Gauff sails through to the China Open quarterfinals as Naomi Osaka retires from the competition. Details at around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, South Africa. We are into the third hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. And as we pause and just reflect on some of the hot topics of the moment, of the morning, and among them, the conversation I had earlier on with the Minister of Police, that's Senzo Mchunu, and he was talking about the fact that government is aware of the escalation of the crime in our country, especially violent crime, and also outlining that there are plans to beef up local police officials with specialist skills and assistance that is being deployed to try and push back against violent crime. He says he's very much aware, and also he's talking about restoring trust through the work that the police will be doing. So that's one of the conversations that we've had. The other conversation has to do with the JSC versus the MK party and Dr. John Hlophe. You heard on the show earlier on this morning confirmation from the MK party that they will be seeking an interdict to try and stop the interviews planned for next week for judges from proceeding on the basis that, with the non-participation of Dr. John Hlophe as ordered by an interim interdict of the Western Cape Division of the High Court would be detrimental to their rights and interests. So they plan to interdict the interviews from proceeding. The JSC adamant that it will proceed with those interviews. We are watching what's happening in the Middle East. Those Iranian missiles fired at Israel yesterday, a significant escalation and almost a realization of the fears of many that this could turn into a regional war. We are taking your calls throughout the hour here on the show, and that you can do on the number 086 000 2032. You can also send us a WhatsApp voice note, and the number for that is 061 410 4107. The third hour of the morning brief starts now.
Okay. They actually did it. I mean, I've seen it done in other countries, but now they have a whole new local season of the show. Oh, Mzansi, you beautiful, amazing land with diverse families and cultures. Wife Swap South Africa is finally here. Tune in from Monday the 9th of September and see how families from across South Africa swap wives and learn a thing or two or three on how other families operate. There will be disruptions, lessons learned, tears, and smiles in this unique and insightful social experiment. Channel your best entertainment with Wife Swap, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. Assurance, they understand my business. They are so good in terms of communication, which gives me confidence. It's a good decision that I've made to move to assurance. I'm a winner. I want to be with the winners.
Switch to Business Outsurance today, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
All right, let's pause for a moment on all the news that we are covering and do something that truly gives me a great deal of pleasure, giving away some money. I'm not one of those people who will have a stash of cash standing at the corner and saying to every passing stranger, here's some money, take a few notes. I'm not that person. So any opportunity to give away money, I welcome it. A One Life life policy can change everything. Stand a chance to win your share of 50,000 Rand and bonus prizes when you get a call to play Winning at Life with One Life right here on SAFM. All you have to do is enter on safm.co.za. Increase your winnings by 2,000 Rand if you get an obligation-free One Life life cover quote. One Life is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. One Life, changing lives. So are you ready to win at life with One Life Insurance? Let's play. And today's player is Makhosazane Ndlovu, who joins me now on the line. Good morning, Makhosazane.
Morning, how are you?
I'm very well. One Life Insurance and SAFM are giving away cash. Simply pick a box and you could walk away with your share of 50,000 Rand. Makhosazane, are you ready to play Winning at Life with One Life?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, you know how the game goes. Pick a box. There are 5 boxes and they are labeled 1, L, I, F, and E. Which box is it going to be this morning?
I'm choosing E.
Final answer.
Final answer. It's
100% sure.
Yes, sure.
Okay. I'm looking through to see how much you have won this morning, Makhosazane. I'm going to need the producers to confirm for me, because I do not seem to have that, and I do apologize for that. So we'll... Okay, let me... All right, oh, sorry, it printed in a funny way. All right, confirm for me your choice, Makhosazane. What is your choice?
The letter E.
The letter E. Congratulations, Makhosazane. You have won yourself 5,000 Rand. Amazing, right?
Wow, thank you so much.
It could get even better, Makhosazane. Tell me, did you get an obligation-free life cover quote from One Life Insurance?
Yes, I did.
Oh, that's it. You get yourself an extra 2,000 Rand for just opting in for that obligation-free life cover quote from One Life Insurance.
Thank you so much to One Life Insurance, and thank you so much to SAFM.
Yeah, you've won yourself a total of 7,000 Rand in cash, all thanks to One Life Insurance, who is changing lives today. Congratulations, Makhosazane. All right, that was our player for today, Makhosazane Ndlovu there, playing the Winning at Life with One Life.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, we've been having these various conversations as I reflected at the start of the hour. Let's take some of your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes and hear from you. Let's speak to Hassan, and Hassan is in Johannesburg. Hassan, good morning. You want to talk to me about human rights?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you, Thulasizwe, morning. I wanted to talk to you about the quality of our engagement with civil society or with citizens. And I heard Ras Mantula talk about the Human Rights Commission, which I think in patches did some good work. But I have a current podcast with SAFM about how they promised to do an investigation on Jagersfontein 2 years ago. And to date, I have actually accused them for not having done the report. And there's no comeback. On SAFM, I've accused them of that. So really, it seems that due to underfunding and maybe other pressures, that the Commission has failed to step up to its role. But it's not only them; it's a number of these Chapter 9s.
Yeah.
But generally, as I spoke to you the last week, and we had a very short time regarding DMR and how they simply put out a document for the 4th. I really think what you guys must do, and you do a sterling job, is to actually get these guys to answer to these allegations, to say they're not just allegations, they're facts.
Yeah.
And they have to disprove it, because I'm asserting it, and I've proved that they don't come to the party when they have to interface with communities. How I wish every day is an election day, clearly, because the guys were really good before then.
Sure. All right. Thank you for that, Hassan. And it's an important reflection given where we are with our democracy, this being the 30th year of our democracy, the quality of engagement with communities, especially of Chapter 9 institutions, is what Hassan is talking about there. Let me speak to Wesley, who is in Cape Town. Wesley, good morning to you. And you want to talk to me this morning about cable theft.
Yes, good morning, Thulasizwe. Yeah, I'm calling from a coal town for Leesdorp here in the Western Cape. For the past 3 months, from July onwards until this morning, we've experienced on a weekly basis cable theft and vandalism to our, let's say, electric poles, and that leaves the town and neighboring farms, pack houses without electricity for an entire day.
And what is the reaction of the authorities to try and deal with this? Are you getting any assistance, any indication of, any pushback against the cable theft that's clearly affecting the community?
Yeah, I mean, we've got Neighbor Watch and we have the, let's say, SAPS, but only yesterday they put out an award of 5,000 with anyone that comes with any news or something just to try and get the culprits. But I mean, after that, they retaliated. And it's from this morning, or yesterday, last night, 11:30, we were without electricity again.
Sure.
That's a weekly thing. And I think the community is just getting tired that we're not getting really any reaction from the authorities, really.
Yeah, that is so distressing. Thank you for sharing that with us. That is Wesley in Cape Town, sharing his experience with the issue of cable theft, one of the many manifestations of crime, different types of crime across the country, and the impact is instantly felt by communities who are then plunged into darkness, and sometimes it takes days on days for electricity to be restored.
Need a loan? Pay for what you need when you need it with a personal loan from Nedbank. And if you open a MyGoals Plus or MyGoals Premium account, you could enjoy 200 Rand cash back every month for the duration of your loan. That's 200 Rand every month to buy extra groceries or save for a rainy day. Visit nedbank.co.za and join the bank that's best for your loans. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
A One Life policy can change everything. Stand a chance to win your share of 50,000 Rand and bonus prizes when you get a call to play Winning at Life with One Life right here on SAFM on the Morning Brief. All you have to do is enter on safm.co.za. Increase your winnings by 2,000 Rand if you get an obligation-free One Life life cover quote. One Life is a licensed life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. One Life,
the Science
changing
of
lives.
Life on SAFM.
So to this now, South Africa loses about 62,000 lives each year due to preventable alcohol-related incidents. That's what we are told. A recent court case has shone the spotlight on how municipalities can play a role in reducing these incidents. In August this year, the Western Cape Division of the High Court confirmed that the Canaland municipality had failed to protect public health and safety when it granted liquor stores, restaurants, bars and the likes permission to sell alcohol into the early hours of the morning. For more on how a change in laws can reduce alcohol-related incidents, I'm joined now on the line by Zimasa Mpemnyama, who is the project lead of the DG Murray Trust's Alcohol Harms Reduction Campaign. Good morning to you, Zimasa. I've got to thank you for your time. So tell me a bit about this case in Canaland and why it was important for you to take on as the DG Murray Trust.
Thank you for having me on the show. So we went to court for the Canaland matter because the municipality had put in place a bylaw that increased trading hours for liquor in the area. So when before the stores could sell from maybe, let's say, 9 a.m. to maybe 2 a.m., they increased the hours to 4 a.m. In casinos, they could sell liquor 24 hours. and they were also now saying that they wanted to sell on a Sunday. And research that had been commissioned by the Degenerate Trust, along with the Western Cape government, showed that the longer you open liquor stores and the longer you open liquor establishments, the more dangers that communities can get into. That includes traffic accidents, that includes increased gender-based violence, that includes increased hospitalizations and interpersonal violence, right? And so the reason why we sent the municipality to court was because of the extremeness of how they were introducing this bylaw in a very small community that is already entrenched in so many of these things that we're trying to avoid. But the point as well was to shine a spotlight to other municipalities as well, in terms of how they legislate for liquor policy, in that you can't open it up to a point where communities are at risk. There's a constitutional element that is at stake for municipalities to protect public health, and they must take that seriously.
I'm sure you'll know that you'll be challenged to prove that there is a link between the hours of opening as legislated by municipal bylaws and the harms that you just listed. What proof do you have of that link?
So we and the University of Cape Town and a number of professors at the University of Cape Town who have done research for many years on this area have done research that shows the causal link between opening at, for instance, 11 o'clock and what that causes to lives, opening at 12 o'clock and therefore opening at 2 a.m. And this has shown with they studied hospitalizations, they studied traumas, they studied deaths, and there's a causal link that has been done and shown through studies, both nationally and internationally, that the longer you open, the more lives are at risk. And then one of these studies, we partnered strategically with the Western Cape government because it also wanted to see and rethink the way in which they legislate for liquor in the province. And this partnership, along with our communication and partnership with some professors in the University of Cape Town, brought forth this study, and it's also included in the Western Cape's white paper on alcohol harm reduction.
And in terms of other municipalities, what are the trends that you are observing around legislating the opening hours and the selling on-site and off-site selling of alcohol?
Thirdly, what we are seeing is that there's a mismatch in many different municipalities, right? So, for instance, you have Limpopo, where they wanted to decrease trading hours because of the increasing research that's coming out on this issue. So they wanted to decrease trading hours, but they were sent to court by liquor traders and the EFF in Sekhukhune. That's one example. And you have an example in the Western Cape where the government here in the Western Cape is trying to think of ways of reducing trading hours and saving lives when it comes to alcohol. But what we're seeing in other provinces like the Northern Cape is places where they're drastically increasing liquor trading hours to about 6 a.m. sometimes. And these municipalities say that they are using the national norms and standards as their blueprint, which is okay, and then puts forward a question around the national norms and standards and around national regulation of alcohol. Is what we have the correct thing? And are we legislating correctly? And are we looking at the changes and shifts in research and what's on the table? And are we legislating thinking about public health instead of thinking about the profits that come with the alcohol industry?
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Zima Sampemnyama, who is the project lead of the Degenerate Trust's Alcohol Harms Reduction Campaign, talking to us about their campaign to deal with the legislation at local level of the issue of consumption of alcohol and the opening hours for traders of alcohol.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let's take a quick call from Larry, who is in Fishhook. Good morning to you, Larry. You want to talk to me about crime in this country?
Hi, Thulas. Yeah, I listen to your show most mornings on my way to work, and I'm struck by the number of calls that come in about the levels of crime all over the country and all kinds of crime. And then you wonder, how can we begin to address this when the Minister of Justice is implicated in crime herself? Thembi Simelane should have been surely dismissed by the President. Don't have to follow any Labour protocols because she serves at his behest. So he can pick his cabinet and his members. Surely he should have removed her by now. Why are we waiting?
And the difficulty...
I don't know that you know the answer,
Yes.
but I'm asking.
The difficulty we have, Larry, is that we were told that the minister, Thembi Simelane, has met with the president and had given an account to the president. And of course, there were then the processes with the ANC's Integrity Committee. But we've not really been told whether or not the president was satisfied with the report that was given by the minister. So we don't know whether where he sits, Cyril Ramaphosa, believes that he should be firing her or not.
But, I mean, for the integrity of the Justice Department and the country as a whole, surely it's bad, even if she's implicated. The evidence certainly seems to point to what's in the public eye, that she's, if there's smoke, there's surely fire. Even if it's a small fire, it's a disgrace to have a minister that's under such a cloud.
All right, let's leave it there. Larry, I've got to thank you for engaging with me this morning. Let's see, you raise an important point, Larry, there. And let's see whether in the coming days we will get a further update from the president about that issue to do with the minister, Thembi Simelane. And that brings us to 8:30. Let's check in with Ann Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines, former public protector advocate Thulasizwe Simelane has described the Supreme Court of Appeal's decision to dismiss her appeal as a significant personal and professional setback. The court yesterday struck off the Rolo Mkhwebane's application to appeal the judgment that led to her removal from office. The Pietermaritzburg Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal will today deliver judgment in two applications in the trial of an Electoral Commission official. Musawenkosi Mnikati is charged with transporting voting materials in the May 29th general elections without police escort. And the Mfuleni local municipality's member of the Mayoral Committee for Finance and Revenue, Hassan Makus, says workers' unpaid salaries are likely to be paid later today or tomorrow morning. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, our top story is still the N14 between Pretoria and the Brakfontein interchange. This is the Ben Schoeman Highway. We're talking about the earlier crash between Jean Avenue and the N1. Halfway between those 2 points is causing a big delay from Pretoria and going up to Pretoria. And the queue going to Pretoria is having a knock-on effect, causing a delay on the N14 Krugersdorp Highway as you come up to Brakfontein interchange to turn into that N14. So if you're arriving from Diepsloot, off-ramp at the R55, off-ramp the N14 Krugersdorp Highway at the R55, you then hit the 114 Raimter up towards Old Joburg and you work that way. And if you're on the N1 highway or coming out of Pretoria, just aim to sort of use Borta Avenue or the R21 as your alternative routes to avoid the N14 crash. Very heavy around Sandton as well this morning, both ways between Marlborough Drive and Caller Drive. That Mike 1's under pressure. Durban, a breakdown driving in from the airport before Gateway. That's in the roadwork, so it's heavy from Subaya. A crash going into Junction, N2 South, also in the construction. That's heavy from as far back as the Umgeda Road side. And Cape Town, pretty heavily backed on Marine Drive as you come out of Tableview for this time of morning. Big queue still at Sunset Beach. And then it looks like there may have been a crash on the side of the N7 between Plattercliff Road and Bosmansdam. That N7 South stays busy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning once again, Zai. The Protea fire set to burn once again against Ireland.
And you know, Tulas, after a bit of a lackluster performance in the UAE, Themba Bavuma and his Chargers are hoping to turn the tide. You know, we've only been upset by the Irish once before. And trust me, the Proteas don't want to be going down on that road.
I wanted you to say Ireland. Ireland. Yes.
Going down that road in Ireland. They won't be wanting to Dublin down I think
That's a good one. I love it.
I'm glad you appreciate it. I think you're the only person, but anyway, Bavuma, man, he's looking for results, Thulas. He's put that as a top priority. The Proteas preparing for this ODI series against Ireland starting today in Abu Dhabi. Now, they have faced criticism, that's the Proteas, for experimenting too much on their UAE tour with some surprising losses to teams like Afghanistan. So Risa Hendricks, Aidan Markram and Andile Simelane, they've returned home. They'll make room for reinforcements like Ryan Rickleton and Rassie van der Dissen. So Proteas definitely dialing down on experimentation and ramping up their focus on victory. Soccer, the South African football legend Benny McCarthy stirring up conversation by critiquing Manchester United head coach Erik ten Hag. McCarthy, who worked with ten Hag at United, feels the coach lacks the passion needed in modern football. Now with his contract at United expired, Benny is eyeing a return to Africa. Talks are ongoing with Mamelodi Sundowns for a possible head coaching role, and McCarthy is keen to make an impact on the continent. Meanwhile, good news for Man United fans. Captain Bruno Fernandes has avoided a ban after the club successfully appealed his red card from Sunday's loss to Tottenham. Fernandes, who was shown a straight red for a tackle on Spurs' James Maddison, will now be available for United's upcoming Premier League matches against Aston Villa, Brentford and West Ham. So we know it's been a rough season for United, with Fernandes back in the mix. Coached Erik ten Hag hoping to stabilise the team after 3 league defeats. Now onto the world of tennis. Coco Gauff continues her impressive run at the China Open, sailing through to the quarterfinals after Naomi Osaka retired from the competition due to injury. Gauff, who's been in red-hot form this season, looks like a strong contender to lift the trophy in Beijing. And finally, boxing. We are gearing up for a blockbuster boxing weekend, and that's on the 12th of October with a much-anticipated rematch between Fabio Waldley and Fraser Clark, headlining the event in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Their first British and Commonwealth heavyweight championship fight ended in a dramatic draw in March. Now both fighters are looking to settle the score. Also on the card is a light heavyweights title bout between the two powerhouses, Arthur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Now boxing fans are in for a treat as these two unbeaten champions go head-to-head for the undisputed title. And that wraps up your sports on the Morning Brief. Stay tuned for more on SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Yun Taoling. And the partnership and collaboration and cooperation between government and the business sector is deemed as being crucial, particularly on issues such as energy and the logistics network of our country. I see that it's been renewed, that commitment.
Mm-hmm. That's right, Sula. Some of the country's top CEOs met up with President Ramaphosa yesterday and pledged to support the government's economic reform plans, aiming to boost growth and create jobs. Now, in a new phase of the CEO initiative, 140 CEOs are planning on raising 150 million rand to fund expertise in energy, logistics, and crime prevention. This partnership has already seen success, with 250 million rand raised and 350 experts deployed to address bottlenecks in the economy. Now, key goals include maintaining zero load shedding and building 1,000 kilometers of new transmission lines, stabilizing Transnet while identifying private participation opportunities. Lastly, the initiative seeks to address grey list concerns and launch a digital evidence unit. At the event yesterday, President Ramaphosa highlighted the importance of the collaboration between both the private and public sectors. He further noted how the partnership has already boosted certain industries. Moving forward, the initiative aims to create 400,000 job opportunities for youth by 2026 and hopes to achieve growth of 3.3% next year. These are very ambitious goals considering how tepid growth is and the levels at which unemployment are at.
In company news in Taoling, I see that Capitec is shooting the lights out in as far as performance is concerned.
mean, are we even surprised at this point?
Yeah.
The lender, they're reporting a bumper half-year performance with earnings jumping 36%. This comes as most of its divisions performed well. Capitec says non-lending income gave it a big boost. This includes its value-added services like cash transfers, prepaid vouchers, and bill payments. Net income for these services grew 73% to 2 billion rand. The bank reached 16% more clients with these services, totaling 10.7 million users. Additionally, voucher sales soared to 132 million transactions, just demonstrating the bank's successful integration of daily financial services. Capitec is also making way with its digital strategy, with active banking app users jumping 21%. More than half of the bank's clients, 54% of 23 million, now use its mobile app. Transaction volumes via the app also increased 30%, with digital payments dominating at 89%. The group further said its digital banking expansion is fueled by continuous technological investments, and so the bank will allocate an additional 174 million rand to enhance tech and cloud services within the next 6 months. Capitec's upbeat performance has also allowed it to reward shareholders, declaring a dividend of just over 20 rand per share, reflecting a rise of 36% there.
I honestly don't know why we're not in on that action. Anyway, up.
We need to have a conversation about this together.
Ndauling, with the JSE set to open in about 20 minutes, what kind of a trading day are we looking at? But also just a recap of Asia and US futures.
So JET is really all around, Thulas, with those geopolitical tensions under the spotlight. So we can anticipate a mixed day for local markets. There's not much happening on the local front, so traders will be, eyeing those international moves. On the currency front, the rand's rally cooling off. It's currently trading at 17.37 to the greenback. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures are in the red as traders assess the risks associated with the escalating tensions in the Middle East. Over in Asia, trading pretty mixed. We are seeing China markets extending gains while Japanese stocks trend lower, down over 2%. Those markets are on track to end the day on a mixed note.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lichela. She's been watching all things to do with business, the economy, as well as the markets for you throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
The wait is finally over, and we can safely say that Tropica Island of Treasure is back to serve you some really great entertainment. Tune into S3 from the 28th of September to cheer on the 7 teams who will be vying to win a shared prize of 1 million rand, a brand new car each, and become the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure Season 11. Fancy 50,000 bucks? Predict the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure, and you might be sipping that cold, refreshing Tropica all the way to the bank. Follow at MyTropica and at SABC3 for more information. Channel your inner champion with Tropica Island of Treasure. Starts Saturday the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3. Becoming Elizabeth is the fascinating story of the early life of England's most iconic queen. With no clear heir, the death of King Henry VIII sets into motion a dangerous scramble for power. Elizabeth's fascinating and factual journey to secure the crown is filled with scheming, betrayal, and illicit relationships that threaten to bring forth her demise. At a time in which every man or woman of the court is on the wheel of fortune, which may take them to a position of great power one moment, or the executioner's block the next. Channel your inner royalty with Becoming Elizabeth, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Feel like you're paying too much for car insurance? Be like 43-year-old Anissa, who pays only 1,289 Rand to insure per month to insure her silver 2019 Toyota Hilux Raider e-cab with Outsurance. Get a quote from Outsurance today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 now. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take some of your calls now. Let's speak to Sandile in Pietermaritzburg. Good morning to you, Sandile. You want to talk on the issue of the MK Party's Dr. John Hlophe.
Yes, indeed. Good morning, Mapucho.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Let me start by making a disclaimer. What I'm going to say are my just views, not the views of the SAFM.
Sure.
Right. With regard to this matter of Dr. Hlophe, I think we as black people, we are under attack. It's unfortunate that you will find some of our black idiots celebrating what is happening to Dr. Hlophe.
No, Sandile. I don't think we should be calling people idiots. It is possible to disagree without name calling. Let's retract that and just proceed with your point, please.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
I will retract it. Yes,
sure.
That's fine. Yeah. The reason why I'm actually saying these things, Makucha, is that, first of all, the reasons which actually led to his impeachment do not actually make any sense, even to a child of a grade 2. How can you actually be accusing a person for influencing other judges by just merely saying that we know Zulu, you understand Zulu.
Yeah.
And we are saying this many times when we are talking as the Zulu people. So that reason on its own. So I don't think that it actually warranted that Dr. Hlophe.
Have you read the reasoning of the JSC on that matter? Have you read it? Because it does expatiate why they felt that it was gross misconduct on his part. It wasn't just about the word, it was then interpretation, application of the various standards of conduct for judges. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't actually seen that.
No, that's fine.
But I'll have to read that, yeah.
Yes, I'd strongly recommend that. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Now, again, it's actually been singled out from all members of the JSE who are actually having a questionable integrity.
All right, I've got to leave it there, Sandile. I do think I've engaged you quite significantly. That's Sandile there talking to me about the issue of Dr. John Hlophe. Staying on the theme, let me speak to Kirk, who is in Cape Town. And Kirk, you also want to talk about the MK Party.
Good morning. Yes, the MK Party and the spinning by the spokesperson this morning. Jacob Zuma has this polarizing effect on society in South Africa, more importantly in KZN. And this is another successful intervention I see on his part by firstly recruiting Dr. Hlophe and then putting him in that role. I don't believe for a moment that he's not leading that party. And that he's pulling the strings behind the scenes. As for his eligibility, Dr. Hlophe's eligibility for the role, I do think that it is high time that a moral code is observed. The ruling was quite clear from the JSE. How it can be disputed by the supporters of MK is really confusing. It doesn't make any sense to me, a layperson. And I fully support the DA in this regard.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. That's Kirk there talking to me about the MK Party. Let's see how it all plays out once the issue is ventilated beyond the interim interdict, because that's where we are at this point. And let's also see how the interdict that the MK is seeking to the interviews from next week, how that plays out in the courts. Let's speak to Temba in East London. Temba, you want to talk to me about the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Look, I kind of like your line of questioning to the minister this morning.
Sure, thank you.
Specifically, when you raise the issue of the failure of their strategy into identifying and eliminating crime in the country. To the reference that you made or he made to South American countries being taken over by gangs, and bring that home. This is a question that I wanted to ask him. Are they not getting any intelligence briefing that the ANC, as the biggest party and the governing party by far, has been taken over by criminals? Are they not getting?
Do you believe that has happened, Temba? That the ANC has been taken over by criminals?
Look, many have spoken on the matter. Many leaders have spoken on the matter, and it clearly demonstrates itself in the weaknesses of the ANC in its various structures. And so I can answer you in the affirmative. If I'm not, you say that's the part. But the point is, are they not getting briefing?
All right.
That the very ones who are next to him or the very ones who report to them are the ones who are perpetuating or taking part in the crime in the country.
All right, Temba, thank you for that, sharing your views there on the issue of crime in the country. Lastly, let me speak to Mike in Newlands. And Mike, you want to talk to me about the housing, the cost of housing, and you are responding to the interview we had earlier on with the DA in Gauteng. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my apologies. Yes, indeed, I do. But I think I'm going to cut to the chase because I can see time is of the essence. And what I really wanted to highlight was the fact that we talk about $1 billion in this country as if it's just like a rand. You know, we had a case just recently, I'm not going to the housing no time, but if we take the situation with e-tolls, 12 billion rand went missing, and we're not even talking about it. We talk about it as if it's no money. And I would ask your listeners just to do this. Consider a rugby field with 1,000 piles of 1 million rand each. So that is 1,000 piles of $1 million rand, and then imagine 12 rugby fields. And then imagine that Kwenya Lesufi walks in and he sets a whole lot of light with a couple of firelighters, and poof, in no time at all, we have burnt 12 billion rand, and we have nothing to show for it. But look across the road to Thulasizwe, and you will see unemployed people standing there for the measly 1,750 rand little pension, and you'll see education budgets being slashed. And I see that the SANDF now has just stolen 3.5 rugby fields worth of money of 3.3 billion.
All right, thank you for that.
That in mind.
Thank you for that. Mike in Newlands there, evoking that imagery of how money, the value of money, how we should see it, that $1 billion is not just a couple of rand. Mike in Newlands there, engaging with us this morning.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still worth avoiding the N14, the Ben Scriven Highway to and from Pretoria, into a truck crash scene between Jean Avenue and the N1 Brockfontein. It's been there all morning. Traffic is severely backed up. Equally heavy both north and southbound. Just behind that, the N14 Krugersdorp Highway still queuing into the Brockfontein interchange to join that N14 north backlog. N1 south to William Mandela, that's quite slow. The Mike 1 between Caller Drive and Greyston, busy both ways this morning. And the Mike 1 going into Crown stays busy with the queue to Gold Reef City. M2 from Joe Slovo Drive into that traffic congestion on the Mike 1. The Crown pretty slow go as well. Durban bound, leaving the airport, a breakdown in the roadworks between Sabaya and Gateway, so there's quite a sizable backlog happening there. The N2 south into Spaghetti Junction being held up by a crash scene. It is a little bit easier than what it was earlier, but you'll still hit some traffic pressure. And Cape Town, N1 inbound, that's fairly heavily backed up from N1 City through towards the elevated freeway. Marine Drive stays really busy for this time of morning from Bayside through Sunset Beach on your way down towards the Paddocks Mall area. And just while we're in Cape Town, a little heads up about some sand on Baden-Powell Drive. It is quite thick around Coastal Park, and you can possibly, I would expect, some sand clearance work a little bit later on this morning. They normally sort of work from 10 until 2 with some stop-go controls to get that sand off the road. So if you've got to take Baden-Powell a little bit later this morning up into the early part of the afternoon, you may well hit some delays there. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Win your share of 50,000 Rand when you play Winning at Live with One Life. Don't forget to enter on our website, safm.co.za. Stay tuned to the morning brief on SAFM. Keep your phone on loud and we might be the one to change your life. One Life is a licensed life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. One Life, changing lives.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchmen in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up.
Did you know that 80% of South Africa's barley is sold to the beer industry? This locally sourced barley, along with other natural ingredients, plays a vital role in beer production, contributing 2.2 billion rand to the country's agricultural GDP. Join South African breweries on the 3rd of October in Caledon as we dive into the state of the beer economy. SAB, brewing a future full of cheers. South Africa, be sharp. Not for sale to persons under 18.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Let's bring you this conversation now. The Department of Water and Sanitation is set to launch an anti-pollution forum aimed at dealing with issues of pollution in the Vaal River tomorrow. The Vaal River, one of the country's largest and most vital rivers, has become heavily polluted due to various factors, including industrial waste. Let's bring into the conversation Sello Seitlolo, who is the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation. Good morning to you, Deputy Minister. The scale and size of the problem, firstly, before we talk about the fix that you are seeking to introduce. How bad is the pollution along the Vaal River system?
Yeah. Now, good morning to us, and good morning to all the SAFM listeners. I think it is important to just appreciate the opportunity to be with you this morning. It is incredibly bad. It's extremely bad, and as you would know, it comes a long way. It's been quite a number of years that this has been left unchecked, and as such we are sitting with a situation where we need interventionist mechanisms in which we can be able to manage the pollution and those who are polluting into the Vaal River system at a local level, hence the establishment of this particular anti-pollution forum, with the hope and trust that we will be able to use our catchment management agencies, both at the lower, middle and upper Vaal River system, in order to be able to begin to regulate and make sure that we protect this particular water use resource.
So with that context in mind, what is the mandate of the forum, and is that reflected in its composition?
You would recall that the former Minister Mkhunu began establishing catchment management agencies. These catchment management agencies are essentially responsible for the management of water resources at a local level, particularly bringing together communities and other stakeholders, with the idea that they would be able to identify, report, and manage, in essence, what is happening in as far as the water pollution is concerned, and us as the regulator in that space to be able to begin to serve notices and directives to those who are polluting and make sure that we're able to take decisive action, as we did with a number of municipalities before and industries, given the extent to which they were polluting, whether it's municipalities with their infrastructure that is broken in as far as their wastewater treatment plants are concerned, whether it is industries, mining, farming, that are obviously using harmful chemicals that go into the water stream, making sure that the raw quality of water in the Vaal system is compromised, meaning that our water security in the country is compromised essentially. So I think, in essence, we need to be able to look at this as a step in the right direction as a department, but the proof is going to be in the pudding in as far as what happens after the launch tomorrow, because, I mean, as many people would be very skeptical to say, you know, we've seen forums being launched before, we've seen programs being launched before, what is the difference with this one? And I think the difference with this one is that we are going to have a dedicated deputy minister who's going to be responsible for the protection of our water resources from pollution.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Sello Seitlolo, who is the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
With the time remaining, let's take a few of your voice notes on some of the topics we've covered this morning.
Good morning, Thulas. What you haven't addressed with your guest on the Hlophe matter is that the JSC letter states that Hlophe is eligible to participate in the upcoming interviews, JSC interviews, despite the interim order, if you read that letter.
Hi, Thulas. It's Aris here in Cape Town. So my question on the JSC issue is that why now it's now calculating that the time frame won't be convenient to interdict, but why was it convenient for Jack Hlophe to be stopped? It should work both sides. You can't do one side, you stop a person, but then on the other side you say, no, if you stop me, I'll be delayed because there are means transport and all that. It doesn't make sense.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. With regards to Ndlamulo Ndlela, the MK Party's spokesperson's comments, I feel like he mustn't come on the air and speak on morality, because the MK Party is the same party that lacks morals when dealing with their own members. To start with, they expelled and removed the founder and president of that party, Jabulani Khumalo, and that same party is the same party that's been removing members from parliament, members that joined their party to actually pursue the same policies that they have, but at the end of the day they ended up getting shifted and being backstabbed. That party has lacked so much morals in many extents, but anyway, that's just my opinion. Daniel here in Bryson.
All right, I've got to thank you for those inputs, which we've been taking throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief. No time for me to engage, but the conversation does continue throughout the day here on SAFM. And in fact, the talking point is up next here on SAFM. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, former public protector reacts to Supreme Court of Appeal's decision and predictions of a warmer summer in South Africa. Good morning. Former public protector advocate Thulasizwe Simelane has described the Supreme Court of Appeal's decision to dismiss her appeal as a significant personal and professional setback. The court yesterday struck off the roll Mkhwebane's application to appeal the judgment that led to her removal from office. The court also issued a costs ruling against her. Mkhwebane says she feels punished.
On the face of it, it's like I'm being punished for exercising my rights, especially the FCA even saying I must pay the costs of the two counsel. I mean, it's like preventing me or, to pursue and exercise my rights which were violated.
The Pietermaritzburg Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal will today deliver judgment in two applications. In the trial of an Electoral Commission official, Musawenko Simnikati is charged with transporting voting materials in the May 29th general elections without police escort. The two applications have delayed the trial. In one of the applications, the Commission's accused manager argued that the Thulasizwe party supporters should be barred from wearing party regalia in court, saying it was intimidating. The MK party's John Hlophe.
I do want to say at this stage, lots of political parties, I've never seen a single political party where the supporters do not go to court or the prescripts of the court wearing their official regard. So if there is indeed a ruling to that effect, it will be for the first time, and that will be directed. We will take that as an offense, as an affront to the to Umkhonto Wesizwe.
The Mfuleni Local Municipalities member of the Mayoral Committee for Finance and Revenue, Hassan Marcus, says workers' unpaid salaries are likely to be paid later today or tomorrow morning. This after the unpaid workers embarked on a protest yesterday. The municipality's financial woes deepened after Eskom attached 4 of its bank accounts to recover an estimated 8 billion